there. He was saying, if you guys need aid, however many billion.
Kid Boo donate $2, Batman Returns. Let me see.
This is the final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will liberate America from these villains once and for all.
Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Thanks for that donation, though, Kid Boo.
Billions, you can have it. Meanwhile, Trump, I think, was threatening to withhold federal funding from blue states that wouldn't. I think it had to do with the National Guard stuff, the deployment of the National Guard, that they weren't like doing enough for the riots, and Trump was threatening to withhold aid from some of these blue states. Yeah, Trump is literally the most divisive person in the world. I don't see how on any metric he is ever succeeding in the divisive category. In terms of the economy, I do think it's funny that Republicans are very keen to say that, like, well, we can't really grade Trump, post-COVID, because obviously COVID messed everything up, which is fair. But pre-COVID, what did Trump do? Yeah, he did deficit spending, tax cuts. He presided over historic low interest rates and an economy that was already like blazing past the final years of Obama. We were posting all-time highs in all the stock markets in 2013 onwards. Unemployment rates were falling. Now under Biden, unemployment rates are even lower than they were under Trump. But it sucks that for Trump, we can say, well, we can't really hold him accountable for 2020. That was COVID. Well, all we have for Biden is post-COVID. We don't have any pre-COVID Biden, economy. And it was the same thing for Obama too, coming in right after the housing collapse as well. And it sucks that Republicans are able to walk out of office, having burned the entire American society to the ground economically. And now we've got to try to evaluate, okay, well, what did Obama do during his first 2 to 3 to 4 years just trying to recover from where the housing crash left it? And then we look at Biden now, who's trying to recover from COVID, and now we're grading him on a totally different scale than what Trump is being graded on. Yeah, that sucks, I think.
Can you comment on the foreign policy?
On the foreign policy, I'm going to be honest, I am very liberal. I'm very not progressive. I'll probably come off as more hawkish than others because I'm not a big fan of this, which also, if Ben agrees, I think people like Trump are going to be the most dovish, isolationist people ever. They don't want to do anything internationally. They just want to, protect America, be at home, protect our economy, don't do anything internationally, which is why he was constantly undermining NATO and constantly, attacking all of the European Union and, cheering on the UK for Brexiting away from the EU. I think that being said, I think that Biden has done a phenomenal job when it comes to foreign policy. I think that the coalition building...
I wouldn't say Biden's hawkish at all. I don't know why Destiny would say that. It's strange, too, because under fucking Trump, there was the attack in Iran where they took out one of some Iranian general. That was under fucking Trump.
So important for Ukraine, Russia, and I'm so happy that he decided to go to our European allies and our NATO allies and try to build a coalition of people to help Ukraine so that wasn't only the United States. Personally, especially after doing a whole bunch of research, I do tend to side with Israel over Palestine in a lot of the Israeli-Palestinian conflicts. I'm glad that Biden, while remaining a staunch defender of Israel, is trying to rein in some of the more aggressive posturing towards the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. I'm proud that Biden said, hey, listen, we're going to delay some of these attacks. Hey, listen, we are going to allow humanitarian aid here. Hey, listen, we are going to try to, not kill as many Palestinian people down there, while still, signaling that he would be a staunch supporter of Israel in the conflict, assuming the civilian casualties don't go too high. For foreign policy, blemishes. The biggest one you can give to Biden is Afghanistan and the pullout there. But man, are we going to talk about, the Inspector General report that says that
well, let's also fucking remember that fucking Donald Trump made the whole Afghanistan situation so much worse because he fucking validated the fucking Taliban by trying to strike a fucking deal with them. So, give him a fucking break, too.
Reasons why the Afghanistan pullout was so disastrous was because of the Doha Accords, where Donald Trump headed talks that didn't even include the Afghanistan army. These were disasters. Like when Biden took office, we had 2,500 troops left in Afghanistan. What was the options even afforded to Biden at that point? Obviously, you've got the abandonment of the Kurds in northern Syria, for the Turkish armies to lay waste to. I talk about Iran and North Korea, although I'm not sure where Ben would land on those. But yeah, that's a broadly. Yeah.
That's a lot from both. You want to pick at something where you disagree with here?
Well, there's a lot. So so I want to ask a few questions on each one of these.
Yeah, sure.
So let's talk about
okay. So Ben's gonna get smoked here.
Divisiveness for a second. So there's no one who can make the case that Donald Trump is not divisive.
Yeah.
Of course, he's incredibly divisive. It's a given. Do you treat Biden's rhetoric with the same level of seriousness that you treat Trump's rhetoric? Or I should probably put that the other way around. should we treat Trump's rhetoric with the same level of seriousness as Joe Biden or, say, Barack Obama's rhetoric?
I'm going to try to be concise when I say this. Broadly speaking, especially in studying Israel, Palestine, and Ukraine, Russia, I try not to take politicians at their word because sometimes they just say stuff to say stuff. I understand that. But broadly speaking, I'm going to look at the rhetoric and the actions, and I am going to grade them the same. So yes, I would hold Biden and Trump to the same standard.
Right. So my feeling is, and this is one area where, for clarification, we're going to have a division, is that I, of course, don't treat Trump's rhetoric in the same way that I treat Biden's or Obama's. He's utterly uncalibrated and he says whatever he wants to at any given time, and it doesn't even match up with his policy very often.
Can I ask you, like, for our head of state, our chief executive, shouldn't rhetoric be arguably one of the most important things that he does?
I mean, the answer would be yes. And now I've been given a choice between a person who I think in calibrated ways says things that are divisive and a person who in uncalibrated ways says things that are divisive. And so the evidence that Joe Biden is divisive is every poll taken since essentially August of 2021. He is, by all available metrics, incredibly divisive. A huge percentage of Americans are deeply unhappy, not only with his performance, but don't believe he's a uniter. That's just the reality. And that may just be a reflection. I mean, honestly, we may be putting too much on Trump or Biden personally. It may just be that the American people themselves are rhetorically divided because of social media, and social media can, in fact, be a cesspool and all
one
that.
thing that I would ask you about that, though, is I agree, especially when you look at the favorability. But sometimes when I look at these polls, when you start to disaggregate them by party, I wonder if it's actually, is Biden historically divisive? Or I'm trying to think of a really polite way to say this. The people that like Trump worship Trump. I don't know. Like, one of the most prescient things that Trump could have probably ever said was that I could kill someone on 5th Street and nobody would hold me accountable. So is it really that Biden is historically divisive, or is it that every single Trump supporter will always say that Trump is great? And
no, the reason I would say that Biden is, in fact, historically divisive is because Republicans felt much more strongly about Barack Obama than Joe Biden, actually.
But they didn't feel as strongly about Trump as they did about, like, Romney or McCain, right?
In what way? I mean,
and the allegiance to Trump.
Oh, no, there's certainly more allegiance to Trump than there is to Romney or McCain, largely because Trump won in 2016. But beyond that, the point that I'm making is that if you're looking at the stats in terms of divisiveness, Republicans always find the Democratic president divisive. The question is where the rest of the country is. And right now, there are a lot of Democrats who either don't agree with Biden or find him divisive. There are a lot of independents who find him divisive. So when we're comparing these things, I don't think they're leagues apart in terms of the divisive effects of what they say. Right. And I'm separating that off from, like, the inherent content of what they say, because obviously what Trump says is more divisive just on, like, the raw level. I mean, if he's insulting people as opposed to Joe Biden doing MAGA Republicans, like, if I were an alien come down from space and look at these two statements, I'd say this one's more divisive than this one. But then there's the reality of being a human being in the world, and that is everyone has baked Donald Trump into the cake. And Joe Biden, again, started off with a patina of being non-divisive and now has emerged as divisive. If you don't mind, I actually want to get to the foreign policy questions, because this one is actually slightly less interesting to me.
Sure. Well, just one quick thing, I guess.
I don't know
we could
how
say the reality
fucking say Joe Biden's divisive. The only way in which he's divisive is people who are Trump worshippers don't like him.
Of it, and we can look at opinion polls. What if we look at, like, legislative accomplishments? Like, Biden is working on a 50-50 divided Senate. Donald Trump had both houses of Congress and the Supreme Court and got, like, no major legislation passed.
Well, I mean, he did lose Congress in 2018,
but prior to that, because we got the infrastructure bill, I think, in 1 year, which Trump promised for his entire presidency, didn't get anywhere on it.
I mean, yes, his Republican base was not in favor of mass spending on infrastructure, and neither am I. So there's that. I think that's mostly a state and local
issue. But they were in favor of mass spending for tax cuts?
That's not a spending. I mean,
effectively it is, right? Like,
effectively, it's not.
Well, if you're cutting tax receipts, but you're not changing the level of spending, like Biden did with the IRA.
I mean, again, we have a fundamental philosophical difference here. I think that when the government takes my money, that is not the government somehow being more fiscally responsible. And when the government allows me to keep my money, I don't see that as the government spending. I see that as my money, and the government is taking less of it.
That's great, but at the end of the day, the government is still going to be in a deficit spending, and they're going to have to borrow money from the Treasury.
Right, we have a spending problem. In other words, not a receipts problem, is the case that I'm making. The problem with Donald Trump is not that he lowered taxes. The United States has one of the most progressive tax systems on the planet. And in fact, if you wish to have a European-style social welfare state, what you actually need is to tax the middle class to death. I mean, the reality is the top 20% of the American population pays literally all net taxes in the United States after state benefits and all of this.
Sure.
So if you actually wanted to have the kind of social welfare state that many liberals seem to want to have, like Northern Europe, for example, you'd actually have to tax people who make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000.
And I don't want that. I agree with that. So how do you explain the lack of legislation? I mean, if he's like such a uniter?
Because I think the Republican Party itself is quite divided. And I think that Trump's...
But isn't that his job? He's the head of the Republican Party. He's the Republican president of the United States.
I mean, again, I don't think that Joe Biden has passed wildly historic legislation.
The infrastructure bill was the largest, like...
So here's the problem. If you're a Republican, the only bills that you can get consensus on tend to be bills that either... that let's be real about this, that are tax cuts, because as you would, I think, agree with. When it comes to polling data, Americans constantly say they want to cut the government, and then the minute you ask them which program, they have no idea what they're right. Exactly, and so it's much harder to come up with a bill to cut things than it is to come up with a bill to add things. Which is why spending was out of control under Trump as well. But there are some Republicans who still don't want to spend on those things, right? So inherently, the task that this goes back to the first question. The task that Republicans think government is there to do is different than the task that Democrats think that government is there to do. So the way that the very metric of success for a Democratic president versus a Republican president, namely, for example, pieces of legislation passed, as a Republican, one of my...
Okay, so basically he's saying, well, what was Trump supposed to do? obviously he has to increase spending and cut taxes. Like,
Is to pass nearly no legislation because I don't actually want the government involved in more areas of our life. I want to ask a couple questions on the foreign policy.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Wait. Real quick. So, for instance, like Donald Trump wanted to punish China, and he wanted to bring microprocessor manufacturing to the United States. Biden did that with legislation, with the CHIPS Act. You talk about like spending.
Kid Boo Donate Tillers, do you think if there was a weight verification for women, they'd get mad? Let me see. Introducing the thing you never asked for, but definitely always wanted. Tinder height verification coming soon. Oh boy. Yeah, dude. Okay. Okay, buddy. If there was a weight verification for women, they'd be so fucking pissed. But the height verification, this is for entirely for men. Like, men don't care how tall a woman is. Like, most women are like 5'4" or some shit. This is entirely for women to weed out fucking short dudes. So, yeah, guess what? If there was a weight verification on fucking Tinder, like, women would be pissed. That's hilarious.
My dad likes my stinky hole. Trump 2024 faggots.
Trump is not going to win in 2024, but that's nice that your dad likes your stinky hole. Thanks for the donation, Christy. Yeah, that's funny.
Being out of control, and I mean, I can agree.
I'm depressed.
Let me see, Faux Hammer. Yeah, I mean, that would work. I'm depressed too, but that's why I'm on meds. Thanks for the donation, Faux Hammer.
With that. I think anybody that looks at the numbers has to agree with that. But why not pass legislation like the Inflation Reduction Act, which is at least like spending neutral, right? Like, why are there not bills where Donald Trump could take?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think that whenever the government says something is spending neutral, it rarely materializes that way. That is not going to be a spending neutral bill.
Sure, but there's a difference between like at least they say it's spending neutral versus they say.
Yeah, dude, men care about height and women, but like, yeah, most men aren't gonna want to date a girl who's taller than them. But what women are fucking taller than most dudes? Like, your average female height is like 5'4". I think average male height is like 5'8" or 5'9" or something like that. So like the amount of situations where height becomes an issue for a guy is much less than the amount of situations where height is an issue for women. Men don't really care about height. Like, oh, I'm only gonna date a woman who's like fucking 5'6" or something. Like, no, guys don't care. If you're hot, have nice ass, nice tits, that's all men really care about. They don't really care about your height. Women, they put... Prismo, be nice. Be nice, Prismo. But yeah, women care about height a lot. Thanks for the donation, though. Something or other. Black people give me the Black people give me the ick. Donated $2. Pepsi Nitro. Have you tried it, Blackie? I have not tried Pepsi Nitro. I haven't had any sodas that are sweetened with actual sugar in quite a long time, so I've never tried Pepsi Nitro. Thanks for the donation, though. Black people give me the ick.
A $500 billion bill over like 10 years.
I mean, but again, I don't see a tax cut as a matter of quote spending neutrality. The big problem is they keep spending, not that they are allowing me to keep the money that I earned and they did not earn. But
okay, so then just to understand, so if somebody just did massive like reductions in tax receipts, so tax cut after tax cut after tax cut, but they didn't change spending at all, you wouldn't consider that like an increase in deficit spending or out of control spending. You would just say they're just tax cuts.
No, the opposite. I would consider it a wild. I would consider it a wild overspending.
Okay.
Meaning
so then
that,
was it under Trump then when he did the tax?
I mean, the deficit spending, by the way, under Biden is way worse than it was under.
Of course, but we're in post-COVID, right?
COVID ended effectively. I mean, you live in Florida. COVID effectively ended in the state of Florida by the middle of 2021.
Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're a vaccine fan, by like April, May of 2021, there was wide availability of vaccines, whether or not you like the vaccines.
Yeah.
And at that point, we were done.
I agree,
mean,
but like we're in a post, like how many trillions of dollars have been dumped in worldwide that are like leading to inflation, right? The inflation is like a worldwide issue right now because of the economy shutting down for a year or two. It's not like those effects are gone in 1 year, right? COVID might be gone, but the after effects of all the stimulus spending and the unemployment and
the
everything else.
definition of inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. So pouring more money on top of that makes for more inflation. That's what it does.
Sure, I agree. But like there's also the definition of when do you deficit spend is when economies are headed for recessions, right? Rather than when economies are doing really well, like they were under Trump and he was deficit spending, whereas Biden can at least make the argument that I ought to be deficit spending because the economy is heading for potential recession. Right?
So here's the thing. I don't think that the economy was actually headed for recession. In fact, if you look at the economic
Every
statistics,
economist said that it was.
No,
they're still saying that there's like a recession coming, right?
Right, but that was largely because of the after effects of inflation. Meaning, if you inflate the economy, what you're going to end up doing is bursting a bubble, and then when that bubble bursts, you'll get a recession. I mean, that was the basic idea, right? The question was whether you're going to get a soft landing. But if you actually look at, for example, the employment statistics or the economic growth statistics in the United States, what they look like under the last year's Obama and then Trump. I mean, this is what the chart looks like. It looks like this, and then it hits March of 2020, it goes like that,
yeah,
right? And then by like September, it bounces back up, right? It's a V-shaped recovery, and then it starts to peter out.
Sure,
and
a lot because of the American Recovery Plan, right? That Biden did as well.
I mean,
4 million jobs. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to attribute it to that because the rates of growth in job growth from September, October, November were actually very similar to the rates of job growth after Joe Biden took office. What you see is actually kind of a straight line. I mean, what the chart looks like. In any case, okay. So on the foreign policy stuff, this is getting abstruse, but on the foreign policy stuff, so the questions that I have with regard to Biden on foreign policy, very, very simple question. Do you think that the situation in the Middle East is better now than it was under Donald Trump?
Probably. That's a hard one. The factors that I'm making right now are like obviously you've got the Israel-Palestinian war that's going on right now, which is kind of bad. But like broadly speaking, I'm not sure how much that affects the Middle East as much as like the collapse of Syria. 2013 Syrian civil war sent millions of immigrants throughout all of Europe,
which was under
Obama and continued under Trump. Trump didn't do anything to alleviate any of the Syrian civil war. Why did Syria end up as a preserve of Russia again? How did Syria end up as a preserve of Russia? Yes. Why did it end up being essentially a client state of Russia? I know that Putin enjoys access to the ports down there. I don't know. I mean, the reason is because Barack Obama suggested that there was a red line that would be drawn in the face of chemical weapons use. Bashar Assad then used chemical weapons in Syria, and Barack Obama was unwilling to then essentially create consequences for Syria in the form of any sort of Western strike. And so instead he outsourced it to Russia. This is 2013, 2014. Sure. Do you think there might have been some hesitancy after like seeing how Libya ended up that maybe us like intervening? Who was president during Libya? Well, yeah, I mean, like, so sure, but what does that have to do with anything? I'm just saying, like, there might have been like a mistake learned. The point that I'm making is that actually the Middle East, I mean, just historically speaking, was historically good under Donald Trump. I mean, it's very difficult to make the case that either before or after Trump were better than during Donald Trump. Was it? I mean, the Syrian. I don't think that Trump contributed to the.
Yeah, so Trump didn't help improve the Syrian civil war, and I mean, he also was making fucking deals with the Taliban that they obviously weren't going to honor. So I don't know about that.
Syrian situation improving much. I
mean, he did wreck ISIS.
Oh yeah, and he also fucking ruined the Iran nuclear deal.
I mean, ISIS had been getting wrecked by the Kurds in Iraq, by every single person, by Assad's army, by Putin, by Turkey. Literally everybody was fighting against ISIS at that point. There's a spike in violence, and then the Trump. I mean, you get credit for when you're president, presumably. I mean, things got better with ISIS under Trump. I mean, yeah, they did. I mean,
things got worse with ISIS under Obama.
For sure.
He called them the JV squad. Sure. And then they became not the JV squad.
Yeah, but I don't know if ISIS is originating in Syria and Baghdadi and all of the growth of that is necessarily Obama's fault. I know that we like to say that Obama created ISIS. I don't know if you say that, but I've heard that saying a lot. I think that's a little bit simplistic. I don't think that when I'm looking at like actions that presidents have taken, the biggest criticism I have for like Middle Eastern policy is I think the Doha Accords were a disaster. And I think that's like one of the biggest blemishes that we have right now. I would also argue that moving the embassy to Jerusalem was also kind of silly and arguably contributed to some of the conflict we see right now.
No, exactly. I'll argue precisely the opposite, especially given the fact that after the movement of the embassy to Jerusalem, the Abraham Accords continued to sign and actually expand. And that if Donald Trump had been elected, I have no doubt in my mind that Saudi Arabia would now be a part of the Abraham Accords. In fact, that was basically pre-negotiated. And then when Joe Biden took office, Joe Biden took a very anti-Saudi stance on a wide variety of issues. The biggest single effect in the Middle East of Joe Biden's presidency, and again, I agree with you that not every foreign policy issue can be laid at the hands of a president. Joe Biden's main approach to the Middle East was very similar to the Obama approach, which is why the Middle East was chaotic under Obama and chaotic under Biden. And that was to alienate allies like Saudi Arabia and Israel, and instead to try to make common cause or cut deals with Iran. What that did is incentivize terrorism from Iran. What we're watching in the Middle East is Iran attempting to use every one of its terror proxies in the Middle East, and it was specifically launched in an attempt to avoid what Biden actually was trying to do, which was good, which was after 2 years of failure with Saudi Arabia, try to bring them into the Abraham Accords, right? That was what was burgeoning at the end of last year. And Iran saw that, and Iran decided that they were going to throw a grenade into the middle of those negotiations by essentially activating Hamas. Hamas commits October 7th. Israel, as a sovereign nation state, has to respond to the murder of 1,200 of its citizens and the taking kidnapping of 240. Israel has to do that not only to go after its own hostages and try to restore them, but also to reestablish military deterrence in the most violent region of the world. Hezbollah gets active on Israel's northern border. Hezbollah is an Iranian proxy. They get active on the northern border. The Houthis in Yemen get active. These are all the only reason all this is happening at the same time is because Iran is doing this, right? And not just that, they're threatening global shipping. If you're talking about the effects of global supply lines, which I totally agree had a major inflationary effect on the economy thanks to COVID, right now the cost of shipping is nearly double what it was just a few weeks ago. And that is because a ragtag group of Houthi barbarians are attacking international shipping and forcing everybody to stop using the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and instead going around the Cape of Good Hope in Africa. All of that is the result of the fact that Joe Biden reoriented the United States in the very early days in favor of a more pro-Iranian stance. He appointed Robert Malley to negotiate the Iran deal, who, as it turns out, was using proxies. Many of his aides were actually taking money from Iran. The Biden administration, literally one of their first acts was to delist the Houthis as a terror organization and end sanctions against the Houthis. And these are all moves that Biden made very early on. They were disastrous moves. But when it comes to domestic policy, I think he hasn't been nearly as damaging on domestic policy as he has been on foreign policy.
Sure. So just on a couple of Middle Eastern things. So one of the big things that threw the Middle East into disaster was what we are all traumatized by it now, was the Iraq invasion, which happened under a Republican president. Sure. You agree with that, right? Sure. Yes. The deposition of Saddam Hussein and everything that followed after probably contributed more to the growth of ISIS and the destabilization of that entire region, probably more than anything else. I think that prior to Bush, for Clinton, even at the beginning of Bush's presidency, we were on some kind of road to normalcy with Iran, which I think has to happen, whether we like them or not, until Bush, for whatever reason, decides to throw Iran into the axis of evil. And
I need some evidence that we were on the road to normalcy with Iran in the 1990s.
We do in the...
How often do try getting out of your comfort zone?
I don't know, man. I don't even know what that really means. Lately, I've just been trying to do things I enjoy and minimize stress as much as possible because the depression's been hitting hard, especially in the winter. But I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Thanks for the donation, though. Stop being black, nigga.
Wait, what?
That we were on a road to normalcy with Iran in the 1990s.
My understanding is that, from the late 90s and prior to the axis of evil labeling of Iran, that there was going to be some path forward to where we could start to normalize relationships with them.
I find that very difficult to believe, and I don't see a lot of evidence. I mean, we can just disagree on that.
Sure, we can disagree on that, but I know that
the after effects, just a quick note, the after effect of the Iraq War that was the most devastating was the increasing power of Iran.
I agree, because of the...
My apartment flooded, so I just went ahead and moved in with my GF. Do you have wisdom teeth? Getting mine yanked out Friday. Weenie cock PPLLLLLLL bitched Regis.
Well, that kind of sucks, but that might also be kind of good, so maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I do not have wisdom teeth anymore. I got mine removed when I was in grade 10, I think. Either when I was in grade 9 or grade 10, I got my wisdom teeth removed. So yeah, the dentist just recommended it. I didn't have any impacted teeth or anything, but just for future oral health, he said it would be a good idea, so I got my wisdom teeth removed. Thanks for the donation, though, non-wib. Appreciate it.
The destabilization of Iraq, and Iraq not having a government there that was functional for at least a decade,
and was in fact a Sunni government, right? Originally, it was a Sunni government. Disbanding the Sunni army was one of the worst things that the Bush administration did.
Banning all the former Ba'ath parties,
sectarian,
all horrible under a Republican president. But
don't disagree.
That that probably contributed more to ISIS, to the growth of power in Iran, maybe even to the destabilization of Syria, probably more than anything that Obama did. Also, when we look at Iran funding people in the region, I don't disagree with that as well. I think Iran is the #1 instigator of bad guy things right now in the Middle East. Iran, the IRGC, I supported when Donald Trump killed Soleimani. I think that was a great thing. I think that Iran is a major problem. However, I don't know if the path forward is constantly being a belligerent to Iran or trying to figure out some road to normalcy. I don't know if the collapse of Iran or the destruction of that country, considering how unpopular the Ayatollah even is there, like the citizens of Iran, I don't think are big supporters of the government there. I feel like moving on a path where, let's do our nuclear inspections. We had that Iranian nuclear deal that Trump pulled out of. Let's do the nuclear inspections. Make sure you're not on the way to nuclear weapons. Let's unfreeze some funds. Let's move in some direction where we get on a good term with you. I feel like that's the most important thing that needs to happen in the Middle East. As much as people like to look at the Abraham Accords, who cares if, what was it? Bahrain, I think Oman, I think
UAE
Sudan,
and Morocco.
The UAE and Morocco, or something like all of these people, even Saudi Arabia, already have like de facto normalization with Israel anyway. They're all trading.
No, this is, I mean, to pretend that anybody even 15 years ago would have been talking about normalization in Saudi Arabia and Israel is insane.
They were already on that path. They had already been they were already de facto trading partners with each other. They had already been collaborating.
That's a wild claim that Israel and Saudi Arabia were going to normalize 15 years ago.
15 years ago might have been a wild claim. But after Turkey, after Jordan, and then in the past 20 years of economic relations and ties with each other, all of the leadership in the Middle East, and you'll agree with this, look at Israel and they go, okay, well, we've got Palestinians who, God bless them, do nothing. And then you've got Israel, which is on a region with no natural resources to somehow become like an economic giant. They're good to trade with. Their population is educated. They have military power. All of the leadership in these Middle Eastern countries are wanting to be friendly with Israel and are engaging in trade de facto with Israel. And the idea that like the UAE and Bahrain were brought in to say like, oh well, now we're going to officially say this.
Those are the first steps toward obviously the formation of a new Middle East in which economics would predominate over sectarian conflict. The chief obstacle to that is Iran. The notion that negotiations with the Ayatollah were going to be a solution to any of this is, but do we think absolutely benign?
Is it the Abraham Accords that's convincing Saudi Arabia to take a stance against Iran?
No, I mean,
they're already fighting. They're already fighting with each other, right? Like, no, I don't think the Abraham Accords moved us any closer towards any type of real peace in the region. What has to happen is something has to happen with Iran. There has to be some diplomatic bilateral communication there.
No, what has to happen is the containment of Iran, which was what was taking place with the increased normalization with the Sunni Arab world and Israel, combined with significant economic sanctions. The notion that there's this far-fetched notion in foreign policy circles that diplomacy can sort of be wish-cast out of thin air. That if you sit around a table, that you can always come to an agreement with somebody. The Ayatollahs do not have common interests with the United States. They do not. And this idea that they are willing to take money in exchange.
I'd agree more with Ben here. I think I think there really needs to be a regime change in Iran. The idea that you can be friendly with Iran, their government is run by crazy jihadist fucking whack jobs. You're not going to be able to negotiate with them.
For example, some sort of peaceful acquiescence to Israel's existence is obviously untrue.
Hasn't that been the case, though? That you've had a region with tons of sectarian violence for a long time, and then finally Turkey was like, you know what, this isn't worth it. The United States paid them a lot of money. They had conversations with Israel. You know what, the economy, the economic gains.
Well, I mean, the relation.
Same thing with Jordan. Same thing with
not into Turkish politics.
Sure,
but the situation with Turkey was actually quite warm between Israel and Turkey in the 90s when you had the sort of secular Muslim regime
in the 90s, but they signed
Kemal Ataturk in place, and now Erdogan has joined in the fray, and Erdogan is significantly more radical.
Sure,
than what
I'm so sorry. If I said Turkey, I meant Egypt. My bad.
Yeah. Okay. So
Egypt, yeah.
Right.
So like, in terms of like Egypt and Jordan, right, were the first two.
You need here's the thing. You need. Is it possible that you could theoretically come to a deal with Iran only with a new leadership crew? Okay, this is true for every peace agreement in the region. You could not. Israel could not have made peace with.
Well, they made peace with Egypt, and Sadat was the leader for Yom Kippur, right?
Shapiro impression.
All right. Let's see. Hello, everyone. Now, I want to go over my debate that I recently had with Destiny. Now, my wife, who is a medical doctor, she watched that debate, and she said that that debate gave her a wet-ass P word. It was not a condition known as diarrhea that gave her the wet P word. What made her P word quite moist was watching me just systematically destroy every single one of Destiny's arguments. There was a lot of talk online quite a few years ago with people telling me that I could not make my wife's P word moist. But I will tell you right now, after watching that debate with Destiny, my wife's P word got rather moist because she saw just how dominant, how utterly devastating my conversation was with Destiny. There you go. That's my Ben Shapiro impression. Thanks for the donation, non-web.
My name is Richard Burgess. My name is Richard Burgess. My name is Richard Burgess. My name fucktard turdless. My name is Bitchard Faggus. My name gay boy MC fuckface. My name is Jesus Christ. My name is Richard Burgess. My name is Dildo Faggins. My name is fuck.
Alright, well that's good to know. Thanks for the donation, Richard Burgess.
Then why do these stupid SJWs say you can?
I do not understand the context of that question, Dodo. You might want to clarify. But thanks for the donation, dude.
Did not make peace with Nasser. Right.
Sure.
The point is that this is a different regime. You need a different regime.
But I'm saying the same regime that did the part of the Yom Kippur War was the same regime that negotiated peace with Israel.
I mean, that's true. It is also true that.
Yeah, but weren't they just completely and utterly defeated militarily?
is a relationship that could be cultivated specifically because it was Sadat who made clear he was going to come to the table. Have the Iranians ever made clear that they would come to the table over, for example, the existence of the state of Israel?
No.
I mean, that is not a thing that's going to happen.
But I think people probably felt the same.
Every single one of their proxy groups, every one of them, not only calls for the destruction of the state of Israel, they also call for the destruction of America. I mean, this is literally the Houthi slogan. They're busy hitting ships, and their slogan is literally Allahu Akbar, death to America, death to the Jews, death to Israel. It doesn't fit on a bumper sticker, but it's not all that catchy, but that is in fact their slogan. The notion that the regime that propagates that is going to be approached with diplomacy is not only wrong, the problem is that it's easy to say the stakes of diplomacy are okay, so we try to talk, right? Jaw is better than war. Sure. The only problem is that in the Middle East, weakness is taken as a sign that aggression might be an appropriate response. That is how things work in the Middle East. And the fact that that Joe Biden, rather,
Well, he's not wrong. Again, after Israel tried to negotiate land for peace, it sparked the Second Intifada.
came into office with an orientation toward continuing the Obama policies in Iran has led to conflagrations, these sort of brush fires breaking out everywhere that Iran has borders with either the West or Israel or both, right? Any place that's happening is leading to brush fires because, again, the logic of violence in the Middle East is not quite the logic of violence in other places in the world. By the way, I think the logic of violence in the Middle East is actually closer to what most international politics looks like than we wish that it were. I mean, I think that's part of what's happening in Ukraine as well.
So you think
which brings me, by the way, here's my question about Ukraine.
Sure.
I don't mean
Well,
to
just real quick,
skip
and then you
around.
can
Yeah, go
discuss
for it.
now. So you think that for Iran, right, a country that has been sanctioned for God knows how many years now, you think that for Iran, just continuing to sanction them and contain them is an effective way, is more effective than trying to engage them in bilateral or multilateral peace talks?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
And
totally.
the proof is in the pudding.
Before we go to Ukraine,
I think Ben's right on that specific point.
can I ask about Israel? So you're both mostly in agreement, but what is
I don't know
Israel?
if I'd say that. But.
Okay, but as I'm learning, what is Israel doing right? What is Israel doing wrong in this very specific current war in Gaza?
I mean, frankly, I think that what Israel's doing wrong is if I were Israel, okay, like, again, America's interests are not coincident with Israel's interests. If I were an Israeli leader, I would have swiveled up and out and knocked the bleep out of Hezbollah early.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
So I would have, Yoav Gallant, who's the defense minister of Israel, was encouraging Netanyahu, who's the prime minister, and the war cabinet, including Benny Gantz. So whenever people talk about the Netanyahu government, that's not what's in place right now. There's a unity war government in place that includes the political opposition. The reason I point that out is because there are a lot of people politically who will suggest that the actions Israel is currently taking are somehow the manifestation of a right-wing government. Israel currently does not have a quote-unquote right-wing government. They have a unity government that includes the opposition. In any case, Yoav Gallant was urging in the very early days of the war that Israel should turn north, and instead of hitting Hamas, they should actually take the opportunity to knock Hezbollah out, because Hezbollah is significantly more dangerous to the existence of the state of Israel than Hamas. I actually agree with that. As far as what Israel has been doing wrong in the actual war, I mean, I think that, again, from an American perspective, I think that Israel is doing pretty well. From an Israeli perspective, if I were Israeli, I would actually want Israel to be less loose about sending its soldiers in on the ground level. So Israel's attempting to minimize civilian casualties, and the cost of that has been the highest military death toll that Israel has had since the 1973 Yom Kippur War. I mean, I personally know, through 1 degree of separation, 3 separate people have been killed in Gaza. And that's because they're going in door to door. It's because they're attempting to minimize civilian casualties, and they're losing a lot of guys in this particular war. You know, the problem that Israel has had, historically speaking, is that Israel got very complacent about its own security situation. They believed the technology was going to somehow correct for the hatred on the other side of the wall. So our people have to live underground for 2 weeks at a time while some rockets fall, but at least it's not a war. And that complacence, bred what happened on October 7th. So
Yeah, so I would say Israel probably should have invaded Gaza again and actually dealt with Hamas before the October 7th attack happened. Hindsight's 2020. I think the biggest mistake Israel's making right now in this current war is they're just losing the media and propaganda war. I think they should have had a better media strategy put in place, especially on social media, so that people could actually see exactly what sort of strategies they use when they conduct airstrikes to minimize civilian casualties, and do a better job at pointing out how Hamas operates to show the world why there are so many civilian casualties, how they use human shields, shit like that. I'm sure some of that has, some of the reason they don't do that is because they don't want the enemy knowing exactly what sort of strategies they use. But, yeah, the biggest problem they have is they're just losing the propaganda war to Hamas.
to me, what Israel did wrong was years and years and years of complacence and belief in an Oslo system that is at root a failure, because you cannot make a peace agreement with people who do not want to make peace with you. So that's what I think Israel is doing wrong. I have a feeling there's going to be wide divergence on this point.
Maybe. So in terms of broadly speaking, I generally oppose settlement expansion. Is a thing that Israel does incorrectly that I think is kind of like provocative to at least all the Palestinians in the West Bank, and it probably energizes hatred in the Gaza Strip for them as well. In terms of conducting warfare, the one thing that I always say to everybody, especially Americans, is you can't evaluate things from an American perspective. It's very stupid. It happened a lot with Ukraine, where people are like, oh, well, didn't they work with the Nazis, and like weren't the Soviets the good guys? And it's like, well, in other parts of the world, it's not quite as simple. And I think the same is true for Israel-Palestine. That a lot of Americans will analyze the conflict as just being one between only Israel and Palestine, which is not. It's a conflict between Israel and then Palestine, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Iran. Right now it is. I think that however, one area where I'll break with Ben is I think that minimizing civilian casualties and everything is very, very, very important. I think on the Israeli side, I don't think it's important so that the U.S. will stay with them, because I think the U.S. is probably going to stick with Israel as long as they don't do anything crazy. And I don't even think it matters for the international community. It definitely doesn't matter for the UN, because Jesus Christ. However, I think it's really, really, really important that I think that in the Middle East, broadly speaking, I think that leadership, especially in the Gulf, has gotten over the Palestinian issue. I think that leadership is kind of like, they don't care as much anymore. But the populations still care quite a bit. And I think that the main issue that Israel could run into is if the civilian death toll does climb too high, and if they start to hit this 40, 50, 60,000 number of civilian casualties, they run the risk of the civilian populations in the surrounding Middle Eastern states becoming so antagonistic towards Israel that they start to take steps back towards normalization in the region. So for instance, I know that Bahrain, I think, already pulled out their ambassador to Israel. My guess is going to be it's temporary. I know that on the public speaking side, you've got a lot of people condemning Israel for the attacks. And on the private side, you've got people telling Israel, please kill all of Hamas because this is untenable and nobody wants to work in the situation. I don't know if this ended up being true or not. I'm guessing it didn't. But I saw on a couple of Twitter accounts, it was leaked that potentially Saudi Arabia was considering installing a government in the West Bank that they would run.
No, I mean, I think Israel would love nothing better than that. But that is
for
not
sure.
something the Saudis,
Okay.
one of the big problems in the Middle East is literally no one wants to preside over the Palestinians.
Yes.
No one.
So
Maybe
I think
Arab
that-
states, Israel, no one.
Yeah. So I think the issue is, and I'm largely actually, I'm very sympathetic towards the Palestinians, because I think that for since 48 and onwards, I think that all of the Arab states super gassed them up on that. They wanted the Palestinians to fight because they wanted to fight with Israel. However, as time has gone on and they realized that it's kind of a lost cause, states have started to drop out. So you're getting these bilateral peace treaties with Egypt and with Jordan. You're getting multilateral agreements like the Abraham Accords. And now the Palestinians are looking around and like, okay, well, you guys told us to fight all this time, and now the only people that we have supporting us are Iranian proxies. So the Palestinians are in a very weird spot where they've like lost all their support.
Is donated $2. Let me see.
Amigos.
That was great. That's one of the best animations I've ever seen. That was good.
Yeah, I think that Israel, what I would say to be quote unquote critical of Israel is Israel needs to take strong steps towards peace that probably involves them enduring some undue hardship. So not the October 7th attacks, because Jesus, that's way too much. But other types of attacks that they might have to deal with that might cause some civilians to die that they don't come out over the top with and retaliate with if there's ever going to be peace in that region. However, another thing that I've always said is a huge problem between Israel and Palestine is I think that both sides think that if they continue to fight, it will be good for them. But the problem is one side is delusional. I think Israel wants to continue to fight because they get justifications for the annexation of the Golan Heights. They get justifications for expansions, especially into Area C, that I think they're probably going to try to annex soon. They get justifications for the increased military posturing towards the Gaza Strip and the embargoes. And Israel is right that if the conflict continues, really the situation only improves for Israel over time. But the Palestinians also all believe that if they keep fighting, they've thought this since 2000 under Arafat, that if they just keep fighting, they'll get better gains too. But that's not the case.
Is there a difference between Palestinian citizens and the leadership when you say that?
I love all people. I love all people around the world. And I think that when we analyze issues, I think that we have to be very honest with what the people on the ground think. And the idea that Hamas is just this one-off thing in the Gaza Strip is not only incorrect with the situation on the ground, it's also incredibly ahistorical. And the idea that like the Palestinians in the West Bank, of which I believe the most recent polling shows, I want to say 75 to 80% support the October 7th attacks. Palestinians in general want to fight in violent conflict with Israel. That's not just the position of the government. That's not.
I'm never able to fall asleep, especially at night. What do you think the cause of this could be? There's a lot of reasons that can contribute to issues with sleep. Could be drug use, could be not being on certain drugs. Depression can actually prevent you from sleeping. Untreated depression can actually cause insomnia. Anxiety issues, poor sleep hygiene. So having like a TV on and noise and stuff like that in a hot room. So it being too warm inside your bedroom, that can cause sleep problems. It could be a billion fucking things, dude. I don't know.
Just people. There's a reason why Abbas doesn't want to do elections in the West Bank, and it's because the Palestinian people really do want to fight with Israel. But to combat that problem is like, you have to get the UN on board. We've got to do an actual addressing of the Palestinian refugee problem, which is handled like a joke right now. Iran has to be brought to the table in terms of negotiations. There has to be huge efforts made to economically revitalize these like Palestinian areas, even though they're one of the highest recipients of aid in the world. You have to do something about the embargo and the blockade in the Gaza Strip, which isn't just maintained by Israel. It's also maintained by Egypt. You should ask why. Yeah, there's a lot of things that have to happen to fix that problem. But the reality is I don't think Israel really wants to, because they get to continue their expansion into the West Bank. And I don't think anybody around the world really cares that much.
So
in a month, we won't be talking about it.
I will argue with that. The idea that Israel does not want to end the conflict is belied by the history of what just happened with the Gaza Strip. So when we talk about settlements, for example, Israel did have settlements inside the Gaza Strip. There were 8,000 Jews who were living inside the Gaza Strip in Gush Katif up until 2005. They withdrew all of those people. I mean, took them literally out of their homes. And the result was not the burgeoning of a better attitude toward the state of Israel with regard to, for example, the Palestinian population in Gaza. In fact, it was more radical in Gaza than it was in the West Bank. The result was obviously the election of Hamas, the October 7th attacks, in which unfortunately many civilians took part in the October 7th attacks. There's video of people rushing who are civilians and dressed in civilian clothing into Israeli villages.
It's always the same thing.
Well, no, that is 100% true, obviously. And when it comes to Area C and Israel's supposed deep and abiding desire for territorial expansion in Area C. So for those who are not familiar with the Oslo Accords, and again, this is getting very abstruse, but the Oslo Accords are broken down into 3 areas of the West Bank. Area A is under full Palestinian control. That'd be like Jenin and Nablus, the major cities, for example. There's Area B, which is mixed Israeli-Palestinian control, where Israel provides some level of military security and control. And then there's Area C. And Area C was like to be decided later. It was left up for possible concessions to the Palestinian Authority if the Oslo Accords had moved forward. Those are disputed territories. There is building taking place in Area C by both, actually, no one talks about this, but by Palestinians as well as Israelis. And the question is whether, if Israel stopped building, there have been many settlement freezes in the past, including some undertaken by Netanyahu.
2 years, 3 months, 1 day. Well, that's awesome. Thanks for the sport stitching, nofap.
And it actually has not done one iota of good in moving the ball forward in terms of actual negotiations. Again, the biggest problem is that the leadership for Palestinians has spent every day since really 67. It's not even 48, because between 48 and 67, Jordan was in charge of the West Bank and Egypt was in charge of the Gaza Strip. And at no point did either of those powers say, hey, maybe we ought to hand this over to an independent Palestinian state, which was originally the division that was promoted by the UN partition plan in 47. Because of that, the leadership post 67 and really starting in 64, the Palestine Liberation Organization was founded in 64, and it called for the liberation of the land. In 64, they had the West Bank and they had the Gaza Strip. So they're talking about Tel Aviv. When it was founded in 64, the basic idea, as kind of indicated by that, was Israel will not exist. And that was a promise that's been made by pretty much every Palestinian leader in Arabic to the people that they are talking to. Yasser Arafat famously would do this sort of thing. He'd speak in English and talk about how he wanted a two-state solution.
I'm telling you, Jesse Lee Peterson would be a better moderator. I wanted to ask you both, what do you think of the Allahu Akbar people?
Jesse Lee Peterson would have been a more funny moderator for sure. It would have made this more entertaining. I think the Allahu Akbar people are terrible people. They should not believe what they believe. Thanks for the donation, though, nigga.
And then he'd go back to his own people and say, this is a Trojan horse. And if Israel could, if you think that Israeli parents want to send their kids at the age of 18 to go and monitor Jenin and Nablus and be in Khan Yunis, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. Israelis do not want that. In fact, Israelis didn't want that so much that they allowed
I am live on YouTube, Dutchie. I'm live on both Kick and YouTube.
rockets to fall in their cities for full-on 18 years in order to avoid sending soldiers en masse back into the Gaza Strip.
True, but I think Israel does want to continue to expand settlements into the West Bank, right? They want to continue to build. They want to have all of Jerusalem, East Jerusalem as well.
Well, I mean, East Jerusalem is already annexed. So East Jerusalem is, according to Israel, part of Israel. That's not a settlement.
Sure.
Okay, so there's that. With regard to, does Israel have an interest in expanding settlements in the West Bank? Why would they not until there's a peace partner?
Sure, that's what I mean. But I'm saying as long as the conflict continues, because even when you talk about
but your suggestion is that that they're incentivizing the conflict to continue so they can grab more land.
Well, no, let me
But
be very clear. I don't think there's like a plan. Like, so some people say, for instance, they'll take that one quote from Netanyahu and they'll try to say that like he was funding the people in the Gaza Strip by allowing Qatari money to come in, even though he was actually speaking in opposition to Abbas, allowing the Gaza Strip to fall for Netanyahu to clear it out for him, they give it back, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not claiming those theories. I'm just saying that I think that Israel would take a relatively neutral stance towards conflict enduring, because as long as the conflict endures and as long as the settlements can expand, I think that ultimately benefits Israel.
I think there'd be let's put it this way. If suddenly there arose among the Palestinians a deep and abiding desire for peace, approved by a vast majority of the population with serious security guarantees, I think you'd be very hard-pressed to find Israelis who would not be willing to at least consider that in return for not expanding bathrooms in Efrat.
I would have agreed with you on October 6th. I think we're probably a year or two away from that right now.
But the point I'm making is that Israelis now realize that the entire peace process was a sham, meaning the people who are on the other side of the table were using it as a Trojan horse in the first place. The death of Oslo is not the death of Israeli hopefulness. It's the death of the illusion that on the other side of the table was anyone worth bargaining with. That's what's happening. And that's why you have this sort of insane disconnect right now between the United States and the Israeli government. Again, it's a unity government. No one in Israel is talking about making concessions to the Palestinian Authority for a wide variety of reasons, including the fact that Mahmoud Abbas's Fatah continues to pay actual families of terrorists who kill Jews.
Sure, the Mark Fund, yeah.
Right, and
which is from the moderate West Bank.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, again, like the taste in Israel for this is even the people who are the Chilonim, right? Those are the most secular people in Israel, which was, by the way, the place that was attacked on October 7th. I mean, what people should understand is that October 7th was not an attack against settlements in the West Bank. It was an attack on peace villages that were essentially disarmed. And many of these people who were killed were peace activists who were literally trying to work with people in Gaza to get them jobs. I mean, it's just, it's mind-boggling. That's why you've had this ground shift in Israel. The next 20 years in Israel is going to be about security and economic development, period, end of story. Everything else goes second, third place.
And I will say, I agree essentially with everything you're saying. Not to loop back another topic, but this is one of the reasons then why I was so critical. I don't want to say critical, but like kind of nonchalant about the Abraham Accords, because they didn't address anything with the Palestinians whatsoever. They brought in countries that weren't super relevant to the conflict. They didn't bring in Qatar, which is where a lot of the money and support for the Gaza Strip comes from. They didn't involve Iran at all. They involved bilateral.
No, but it totally changed the mentality. And this is why what I'm seeing right now, this is why, listen, I think that Biden has done better than I certainly expected him to do in terms of support for Israel. Like Obama was way less supportive of Israel than Biden by every metric. With that said, the rhetoric that he's been using recently and the Blinken have been using recently about Israel needs to make painful concessions for peace, Israel recentering this issue at the center of relations in the Middle East is doomed to failure. The magic is a strong word. The benefit of the Abraham Accords was proof of what you're saying, which is true, which is that all of these surrounding countries in reality have abandoned the idea that there's a centrality to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. That is not the central conflict in the Middle East. And by the way, one of the reasons it's not the central conflict in the Middle East is because actually, ironically, because of the rise of Iran, right? It's Sunni states that are largely signing up with Israel because they're realizing they need some sort of counterweight to a burgeoning nuclear power in Iran.
Can we talk about Ukraine?
Sure.
You have a disagreement with you with what Destiny said.
My main problem with Biden's policy with regard to Ukraine is that he outsourced the end goal of the war to Zelensky early on. Now, that might make sense if that goal were something that he was willing to fund to the point of achievement, or if Zelensky could have achieved it on his own. But right now, and this has been true since pretty early on in the war, this point Henry Kissinger made, that pretty early on in the war, it was very clear that, for example, Crimea was going nowhere. The Russians had control of Crimea, barring the United States giving permission to fly F-16s over Crimea. Nothing was going to change over there. The same thing was true in most of the Donbass, right, in Luhansk and Donetsk. That was not going to change. Zelensky's stated goal, and you understand it, he's the leader of Ukraine, right, is that there was a predation on his territory in 2014, and that the Russians sent their little green men across the border, and then they took all of these areas. And so he, as leader of Ukraine, is saying, okay, I want all of that back. Now, the reality is that the U.S.'s interest had largely been achieved in the first few months of the war, meaning the revocation of the ability of Russia to take Ukraine and just ingest it, and two, the devastation of Russia's military capability. I mean, Russia has just been wrecked. I mean, their military is in serious straits because of the war in Ukraine. From an American perspective, I'm very much pro all of that. I think that we have an interest in Ukraine maintaining a buffer status against a territorially aggressive Russia. I think
Larry Wheels did a collab workout with Brad Castleberry.
Really?
Plays are indeed very real, guys.
Oh, damn. We gotta watch this. Thanks for the donation, Pooh. Equation donated $2. Let's pretend you have sex for 2 hours. Is it possible to do it non-stop without break? It is. You're probably going to be sore afterwards, but it is. 15 minutes, then going on a minute break. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you could do that. What's your experience like? Do you get a burnout if it takes an hour and a half to come and don't stop, or will you feel burnt? Kind of depends. I've never had sex for more than an hour. So I know people can have sex for like 2 hours straight because people do it on porn sets. But yeah, normal people would be sore and tired and probably bored. at that point, but like it is possible to have sex for 2 hours without a break. Thanks for the donation though, Equation. Appreciate it. I gotta go take a pee-pee. I'll be right back. All right. I'm back.
I know you guys are wondering. We know it's out there. Oh, yeah. Yep. Let's go, baby. Yeah. There we go. Light. Come on. Right. Push it, push it, push it. See, guys? I knew Brown was strong all along. I never had any doubts.
Damn, dude, I wish I could throw around 405 that easily.
Yeah, breathe, breathe. Let's go. 3, 4, 5. Your lifestyle is more than just.
Yeah, Larry's pretty gigantic.
Inspiration for a long time. I remember like a decade ago seeing your videos, throwing up the super heavyweight, super heavy dumbbells, and being jacked while you did it. That's what inspired me, right, to do what I've done, right? I saw you with an absolutely fantastic physique, shredded, you know, lifting ungodly amounts of weight. I never thought you used fake weights. I always thought maybe the squat was helping a bit too much, you know? But I always knew you were strong, right? No matter what people have said online, I always knew that Brad was very strong. You can't look like this and not be strong, right? So today, this has been long overdue. I don't think you've collaborated with anybody in the last few years or so, right?
I haven't at all, actually, so I just been staying low, just take care of the family, get my mind right, just get back on track, and just But I've been training hard, so it's going to be a good day for us. So I'm excited. And honestly, he's the same right here, dude. He's been an inspiration. Like after the fact of just seeing him do his shit, and it's like how he did it. It's like he was like doing the same things as we progressed. It was just like,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like people thought what they wanted, but I saw that it was just love. He's doing the same thing I'm doing. It was respect on my end. So. Yeah, way overdue right here. We're about to get it. We got arms today, baby,
Yes,
in
sir.
San Diego. What's about to go down, so I'm excited.
And not many know this, but you're over 40 years old now.
Well, I'm 38. So,
38? Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Got a haircut today, fresh out. Looks really good, yeah.
Most definitely, most definitely.
So,
Well, all right, well, what do you want to start with? I know we're doing arms, right? So.
yeah, let's get maybe just some tricep, bicep, warm up on the cables, and just get the pump going, get the blood flow, and then we'll attack it.
Let's see it.
Let's get it.
Ready, man.
Let's go.
We're supersetting this with, it's like reverse curls. I'm about to ask him why in a second. How come we're doing reverse curls?
How are we doing them?
How come we're doing it?
Well, why are we doing them?
Yeah.
I was just warming them up, get the forearms.
You prefer doing it reverse versus supinated?
I do both. So I'm just doing this light to get us pumping, to get us like the blood flow, that we can attack something.
Definitely.
Real easy. For me, it's like I always like to lean forward and then you just bring it up. Boom. Yeah, oh yeah, look at that. That's way different.
More isolated now for sure.
Yeah, for your forehead.
Cutting glass.
We're gonna pull this shit.
It's at Olympia, maybe amateur Olympia,
Yeah, dude.
because you're on the same stage as like the big dogs. So then the comparison, you necessarily don't even need to compete against the guys. That you have the same stage view. So then you can they can do a side-by-side comparison regardless.
And then just for getting noticed, if you do it that weekend, everyone's watching bodybuilding that weekend.
Oh yeah, like you fucking looked insane. I was like, fucking hey, I gotta do this shit.
I mean, hey, bro, I'd be more than happy for you to come out to my gym over in Claremont and work with my coach and I, Ryan Benson.
Claremont down here?
And, well, LA, I forgot you live over here.
Oh no, Claremont. We have a Claremont right around the corner.
Someone just told me that.
Yeah.
But in Claremont, LA.
Oh, okay, no, I can cruise up there for
Like
sure.
an hour and a half from here to get here. So,
No, that'll be badass.
I think it'd be
Close grip right here.
oh yeah. Visually, it's not bad, even as it is right now. She just tries to see your chest and rotate and your shoulders. Yep. Right.
I fucking hate close grip bench. It's literally just benching.
Come on.
Perfect. Yep.
3, 5, 6,
Yep.
7, 8,
Yeah.
Yeah, I always get shoulder pain close grip benching.
Today might be the day, man.
Come on.
Press up, right there, hit the tricep.
Let's go. Easy. Oh yeah.
Easy work.
Yep.
Up, let's go. Up. 1,
Okay.
2,
Yeah.
3. Let's go. Press through. 4. Let's go. 5. Good job.
Looks violent, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Get it. Perfect. Yeah.
Let's go. 7, 8. Let's go. All through.
It's very jerky movements and not controlling the eccentric.
Get it. Woo. Forward. Oh yeah.
Not bad, not bad.
Well done.
Try and hit whatever, right? What, 5, 4, 3 for you?
It's like
Richard should try BG3, but he won't because he's lame. What's BG3?
Let's cheer on Lamar.
Let me take a look, booty cum.
Get at me, man. I'm doing my ring on. What are you benching these days? Shit. I'm benching a little over 315, only because I don't got no spot, VG. If I had a spot, I'd do more, but motherfuckers be scared to fucking spot me. So I can't really go up too much higher. But, I mean, I can, but I'm just not gonna hurt myself, you know? Good to see you, VG. All right, let's do these hundos.
I think you should go a bit slower on the eccentric, but otherwise, not bad.
All right, that was all right. Trying to get to 405. Man, from what it looks like, bro, you can hit 405. You need somebody there, bro, to spot you. I've seen you do your benches. I've been there say you're ready. You just need somebody to put the 405 on, let you play with that, and you'll get it. You've got enough strength. I just think, like, you need somebody to put it on, put 405 on, let you struggle with that shit, come back up, put it back on. No, I understand. You're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing, but you're doing the right thing, put it like that. If you can't get it by yourself, then I guess you're right, but you got it, really. Honestly, from the way you lift, you pretty much got it. You just need that extra weight, in my opinion. In my opinion. All right, let's bump up to 120s, man. The 100s were too easy. That 75 felt way too light. Didn't even feel like 75s.
I'll subscribe to him.
Thanks, man. Have a good workout. Yeah, anytime, Mr. James. Good to see you.
He's a nice guy. Thanks for the donation, Booty Kim.
5, 4, 3.
Should I try it, right? I should try it.
100%.
Let's try it out.
You gotta break them in, bro. What the fuck?
I can only use them with you.
They're meant to be fucking used and
I'll use
abused.
them twice a year, no problem.
We're gonna stay fresh. How'd you put it on your elbow?
Yeah?
Red. Perfect.
Keep the wrist tight because this shit's fucking rolling.
What's that?
The bar rolls. Keep the wrist tight.
Here we go.
Let's go, man. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Let's go, baby.
Drive. Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Light.
Come on.
Drive.
Push it, push it, push it.
Drive.
Again.
Drive. Yep.
Again.
Come on.
Yeah, you have to be fucking strong to close grip 405 for reps. That's a lot of fucking weight, dude.
Jump. Let's go. Let's go. Right. Up.
Let's go. Light weight.
Jesus.
Butter, baby. Like butter.
It's literally nothing for him. Fuck me, dude.
Fuck yeah. Keep going.
Larry makes me want to do steroids.
Let's go.
He's got it. Let's go.
15,
Let's go.
15, baby.
Damn, he's not even done.
Maybe like a 20 piece, get a nice pump.
20 right now, yeah.
Yeah, nice little 20 piece. What do you say?
Yeah, 20.
20 reps?
20 reps. Heavy hard, but you got it.
She likes it hard, man. Come on. She likes it hard. Hear what she wants.
Stay hard, like David Goggins said.
Stay hard, bro.
Stay hard, bro.
Stay hard.
Honestly, I think staying hard is the best solution to anything in life. You got a problem, stay hard.
I'm hard right now.
Oh, bro.
Hey, look what you got around you, bro. Look what you got around you. It's expected. That's expected.
You know that white stuff on your hands.
Come on.
Not the best form. He's not completely straightening his arms on the way down. Like, you can tell this is lightweight for him, but still.
Let's go. Come on. 2. Come on.
Guess they're just trying to do as much reps as they can, like a heavyweight.
Go 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That is some very aggressive barbell curls.
He's going. He's getting it.
Yes. One more. Get that shit up.
Jeez, it's like vibrating.
Fucking beast mode, baby.
Yeah, jeez. That's the bicep he tore. I think he tore it towards the shoulder. And that's why they can't operate on it. I think, anyway. Yeah, it's pretty crazy bicep peaks.
There you go.
My stats, sorry guys.
Oh, we're putting another plate on the side, so don't worry about it.
I can do that.
You know what? Lance is back. He's decently conditioned right now. Look at that separation coming there. Crazy.
So then you have like no issues.
Let's go! You only did 8?
Ooh. No problem.
Last spread?
Last break.
Side chest.
Right, you gotta get on stage. Boy.
Back double biceps.
What the fuck?
Nah, fuck that shit. What are we doing?
Side triceps.
End of the day, keep working hard, you guys. It's a new year. It could be a new you. You can change your shit like that. Get rid of the negative energy. Get rid of any of that stuff in your life that's not pushing you to the next level.
And on that note, speaking of negative energy, this is why so badly, for many years, I wanted to prove to the people in the fitness community that Brad is strong. You are strong. You did 405 for 5 reps in one close grip today.
Yeah.
Right? We're doing just about, no matter what exercise we chose today, the same weight. There's no fake weight, you know, and I've been preaching this to everybody off camera when Bradley Castleberry came up a while ago. You don't get a physique like this. Not pushing your limits.
Yeah, it is not a collab that I was expecting. But they're pretty cool. Booty Cum Donny Tellers in Lamar's chat is Pugman, you know, lol, you remember him? Oh, yeah?
Let's get the curls going. You guys know
Pugman's
I
in
like
the
my
chat.
curls. Extra weight.
Oh, yeah, there he is.
Man, I'm breathing hard, bro. I can tell I'm definitely out of shape for 2 days.
Why can't I at Pugman? It's not letting me... That's weird. Looks like he's a moderator.
right, let's get this fucking thing. I just popped in to say hi. I'm reacting to Ben Shapiro and Destiny debate on my stream. Hope things have been good with you. Oh, thanks, Brody. Seriously. I'm gonna have to check out your debate after this. I'm interested to see what you guys are gonna be talking about tonight. I like Destiny too, bro. You guys actually would be, I was gonna say, if you guys had your own show together, more like, I don't know if you ever seen Sports Center with, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. I can't remember. I'm having a brain fart. But something where you both can look at something and give your opinions. That'd be great.
Having a show with Destiny would be pretty funny.
I'm gonna do this to wake up my forearms because it's gonna get real heavy.
All right, let's get back to the Shapiro debate.
I think that the United States does have an interest in degrading the Russian military to the extent that it can threaten the Baltic states or threaten Kazakhstan or other countries in the region. The problem I have with Biden's strategy is, as always, I think that it's a muddle, and I think muddles tend to end with misperceptions. War tends to break out and maintain because of misperception. Misperception of the other side's strength, the other side's intentions, and all of the rest. People misperceive what's going to happen. They say, I'll cross that line and nothing will happen, right? This is what Putin thought. He thought, I'll cross that line, they'll greet me as a liberator, and because the United States just surrendered in Afghanistan, essentially, they won't do anything, and the West is fragmenting because NATO's fragmenting and all the rest of this, and obviously he was wrong on all of those scores. The problem for Biden is that, as with virtually every war, no end line was set. And so it became out recently, it was widely reported, that actually there was a peace deal that was on the table in the first few months, that Putin was on board.
Oh my God. Give me a break. Ben Shapiro's spreading that misinformation that there was a peace deal on the table. Oh my God. What a fucking idiot, dude.
With that basically would have ceded Luhansk and
I hope Destiny calls him out on that.
Donetsk and Crimea to Russia in return for solidification of those lines, American and Western security guarantees to Ukraine, right? Ukraine wouldn't formally join NATO, but there would be security guarantees to Ukraine. We're ending up there anyway. It's just taking
That's total bullshit. No.
a lot more money and a lot more time to get there.
And do you think Trump would have helped push that peace?
Yes, and I think that Biden actually did Zelensky a bit of a disservice because Zelensky knows where this war is going to end.
Mike Donny Tillers, would you say we need to get rid of the 9 to 5, 40-hour work week? Yeah, I think 30-hour work weeks are far more reasonable, especially with like automation, AI, and just all these new automation technologies. Hopefully, like in our lifetime, work weeks become closer to like 15 to 20 hours on average, and the difference in pay is just made up by the work that machines are doing. So yeah, hopefully in our lifetime that sort of thing becomes a reality. But yeah, 40-hour work weeks, it's too much. People should be working less. Thanks for the donation though, Mike.
It's not going to end with Luhansk and Donetsk and Crimea in Ukrainian hands. It's just not going to, and he knows that. What actually, in my opinion, Zelensky needed was for Joe Biden to be the person who foisted that deal upon him so that he could then go back to his own people and say, listen, guys, I wanted all those things, but the Americans weren't willing to allow me to have all those things. And so we did an amazing job. We did a heroic job in defending our own land. We devastated the Russian military, even though no one expected us to. But we can't get back those things because it's unrealistic to get back those things because America basically, they're a big funder and they're the ones who want the deal. Instead, what Biden said, and this was reported in the Washington Post last year, the Biden administration said, we're going to fight for as long as it takes with as much as it takes. And when they were asked until when, they said, whatever Zelensky says. And that's not a policy. That's just a recipe for a frozen conflict with endless funding. Now, it may be that Putin has walked away from the table and that deal is no longer available. If that deal is available right now, I certainly hope that's being pursued behind closed doors. My main critique, again, of Biden is that when you outsource the end goal to another country without stating what America's interest is, that's a problem. I also think that Biden did really quite a poor job of sort of explaining what America's realistic interests are. I don't like it when American leaders, it's weird for me to say this, but I'm not a huge fan of the we're in it to protect democracy kind of rhetoric. Because, frankly, we are allied with many, many countries that are not democracies, and that's not actually how foreign policy works. We should, as an overall, 30,000-foot goal, advance democracy and rights where we can. But the reason that we were fighting in favor of Ukraine, and when I say fighting, I mean giving them money and giving them weaponry. The reason that we were doing that in favor of Ukraine is not because of Ukraine's long history of clean voting and non-corruption. The reason that we were doing that is to counter Russian interests in the region. I mean, it was a pure realpolitik play. And that realpolitik play is hard to deny no matter what side of the aisle you're on. I think that what many Americans are reverting to is we have no interest there. Why are we spending money there and not spending money here, and that kind of stuff. And that argument can always be applied unless you actually articulate the reason why it is good for Americans beyond simply the ideological for the United States to be involved in a thing. So, for example, I think right now, when Biden is talking, I think that what Biden just did, the United States, as we speak, is striking the Houthis. I think that that's a really, really good thing. I think that's a necessary thing. I think American people should understand why that is happening. It's not because of quote unquote ideology. It is, I mean, on a very root level, but really it's because you're
Have you seen Ready or
trades.
Not?
I mean, you can't do that.
think
You
I
can't screw up
have.
free trade. And Americans have an interest in not seeing all of our prices at the grocery store double and triple because a bunch of
Maybe
ragtag
I
pirates,
have. Can't remember.
akin to the Barbary pirates from 1800, are bothering everyone, right?
So Ben said a lot there. Do you disagree with any aspect on the Ukraine side?
A little bit, yeah. I think on the macro, I agree. Maybe we get into the weeds a little bit on some things. On the final thing that he said, though, I wish that Americans could have honest conversations about foreign policy. I think that it would just be better for everybody. I don't know if it's, Red Scare after the Cold War.
Okay, Destiny fucked up a little bit there. There was never a fucking peace deal on the table where Russia would have retreated, given back the fucking borders, and then have Ukraine just be not a NATO state. That was never on the fucking table.
Where it was like literally, the behemoths, we're fighting against communism. And we felt like after 91, every single foreign policy decision needs to be able to be explained in like 7 words. Like he's the bad guy and that's it. I wish we had more honest conversations about what our foreign policy interest is in a particular region, because I don't think most Americans honestly could even articulate why Israel would be an important ally, or why it's important to defend Ukraine against Russia, or why should we care about Taiwan at all. I don't know if most Americans could have taken.
I liked the first Scream movie. Second one was kind of weird, and I can't really remember the others. I haven't seen the latest ones.
Anything there, even though they might have very strong opinions about why we ought to be involved in certain conflicts. So I do agree with that. I wish we had more honest conversations about foreign policy. In terms of how Biden has handled Ukraine, the things that I liked the most were, one, that he was very clear in the beginning about what we wouldn't do. So Biden saying that we're not going to do not a red line, no-fly zones over Ukraine. We're not going to be deploying troops on the ground in Ukraine. We're not going to be doing anything that would have, U.S. soldiers and Russian soldiers crossing swords with each other. That's not going to happen. I like that he made that very clear at the beginning. And I like that he coalition built between NATO and the EU to get people to send funds, training, soldiers, airplanes, and everything to Ukraine. I thought those two things were really good. In terms of basically writing Zelensky a blank check, I would like to hope that Biden and the entire United States learned a lesson from Iraq and Afghanistan, that open-ended missions with unlimited budgets and no clear goal are like the worst foreign policy decisions you can ever do. They've like defined U.S. foreign policy for the past 2 or 3 decades, which is unfortunate, but seems to be the case. My feeling would be, and this is just a feeling, I don't know if internal cables have leaked that say otherwise, is the Biden administration has probably always had a quiet position of at some point there's going to be an off-ramp here. And I think even a month or 2 ago, I think those talks were being leaked, that discussion had begun with Zelensky looking for an off-ramp. But publicly, of course, the United States is never going to come out and say, we're going to support you guys to fight as much as you want for 3 months. And then after that, it's no more. Obviously, that can't be the statement. It's always going to be that we're going to support you in your fight against Russia.
And we tried that under Obama with Afghanistan. It was terrible.
Sure. Yeah, you can't.
We'll escalate the troop levels to X, but only for 6 months, and then we're
you just can't do that. It's always going to come off as we're going to support you forever, and as long as it takes, and as long as you need, whatever we have to do to defend freedom and democracy in your country. And any other statement would be absurd. So I can understand why it feels like on a public level, a blank check and an indefinite time period was granted to Zelensky, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think I hope we've learned our lessons in the Middle East about the forever wars, that this isn't going to be a forever funding to Ukraine to fight for as long as they want. I do disagree. I feel like we're playing a little bit retrospectively, saying that like, well, it's obvious that they're not going to capture the Donbass. It's obvious that they're not going to capture Crimea. I agree for Crimea, that was incredibly obvious, but it was also really obvious that in 2 weeks, Russia would own Kiev and Ukraine was going to be Belarus 2.0. I think that even for a lot of military people, and analysts around the world, that was an expectation, or at least a significant probability. Nobody knew, the phrase that's thrown around now is paper tiger, that Russia's military was as ill-equipped as they were. So I can understand why, especially if you're Ukraine and if you've repelled an invasion from one of the world's largest armies, why you might feel like, well, fuck it, let's fight for a few months, let's fight for a year, let's see what happens. And I can understand the United States supporting them, but I agree that there has to be some reasonable off-ramp, but we're not going to fight forever. I think the U.S.
Yeah, I've played Trepang too. I think we've only played like the first level. I haven't beaten the game.
State Department has already begun those conversations with Zelensky to look at what that off-ramp looks like. But yeah, I'm not too sure, other than like...
Korea poor here, also stupid and boring but not ugly, average cock, no car, still live with my mother, I want to get my dick wet, is it over for me, should I just get this? No good dating places here aside from food. I'm poor, help.
That link you gave me is broken. But thanks for the donation, Scrambled Slim. Hopefully, you can get your dick wet soon.
explicitly stating publicly, like, you can only fight until this date. I don't really know what else I would change. I don't think the Biden administration should have done that. I don't know what else.
Do you think Biden should cut this deal on the funding? Meaning there's this $105 billion deal that's been held up by debate between Republicans and Democrats over border, right? So basically it contains $60 billion for Ukraine, $14 billion for Israel, another several $billion for Taiwanese defense against China, and then includes some border funding and some border provisions. Republicans want the border funding and the border provisions because we can get into the illegal immigration issue, but that's a pretty serious issue. And Biden and Democrats have been unwilling to hold that up. And that seems to me like, just from put aside Republicans, Democrats, it seems like political malpractice, meaning there's a widespread perception in the United States that the border is a disaster area. Joe Biden wants these things. Many Republicans don't want these things. If he caves on the border stuff, he gets all the things that he wants, and he's going to be able to go back to the moderates in the country and say, I did something about the border. It seems like such an obvious win.
If he caves on the border stuff, you mean on the Ukraine stuff?
Yes, because then he gets the whole package.
Sure,
Meaning he can go back to his own base and he can say, listen, guys, I wanted to be easy on the border. The Republicans forced me to it, but we needed the Ukraine aid. We needed the Taiwan aid. Right?
Yeah.
Like
you're going to be more educated than me on this. I don't like, or maybe I just don't know enough. I don't like the principle that when we negotiate things in the United States, there's like 50 million hostages at all points in time for every single thing. Like, oh boy, here comes the debt ceiling. What do the Republicans want? What do the Democrats want? Oh boy, like here, we can't fund our government. But I mean, obviously, the argument is going to be that if the Ukraine funding doesn't come in this bill, and if Biden and his administration feel like it's really important, that not unilaterally, but as a single issue, it's not going to pass. So I would say that at this point, and I don't know what the conversations look like between the Biden administration and Zelensky, I would say at this point that it's probably fair to start making contingencies on the money that we give to Ukraine. That listen, like this conflict has waged on now. Like now we need to start looking for potential peace. We can't just write you an unlimited check. So I mean, if those strings are attached, I'd be okay with it. But the broader question of like, is it okay to make this particular piece of legislation with all this funding contingent on Ukrainian funding? I mean, that just seems to be the way the government works now, unfortunately.
Quick pause. Bathroom break. One of the big issues in this presidential election is going to be January 6th. It's in the news now, and I think it's going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. So, question for Destiny first. Did Donald Trump incite an insurrection on January 6th, 2021?
Yeah, he fucking did.
Absolutely. This is probably ignoring every other issue we've talked about, of which I think there are plenty that I would say disqualify Trump from holding office. I think that the conduct and the behavior leading up to and including January 6th, I think is wildly indefensible. I am excited to see Ben try to, the 3 to 4 stages are the taking what I think any reasonable person would say, knowingly false information about elections being rigged or ballot boxes being stuffed or Ruby Freeman, running ballots 3 times in Georgia, taking that knowingly false information and trying to call state secretaries and stuff to have them flip their electoral vote. That was horrible. The plot that Eastman hatched in order to have these like false slates of electors where all 7 states had citizens go in and falsely say that they were the duly elected electors that could submit votes to Congress, that
Ben is dressed like a divorced man-child trying to hang with the high school football team. His cock is weird and looks like those gay candles they use on Matzah Day. His butthole also has cobwebs in it. Destiny should lick that Jew poop hole clean.
Well, next time I'm on Destiny's Discord, I'll mention that to him. Thanks for the donation, though. Jews have weird cocks.
It was insane. That happened. Asking or begging Pence to accept these false...
How much longer do you see the war in Ukraine going on? Might end this year. We'll see what happens with the Russian election. There's already, a lot of protests happening. Putin might be killed or assassinated. He may just croak. He's in poor health, apparently. So I think it'll end when Putin's kind of done. We'll see, though. With any luck, Putin gets killed this year or gets outed from office somehow. But we'll see.
States of electors initially, and then just say you should just throw it out completely and throw it.
Dubs is going after the cart knocks now. He needs to stop being a pussy and go back to saying the N-word.
I truly don't understand how
Let me see.
Dubs could keep getting any worse, any more lamer. And no, for the people in the back who are just here to hate. Well, sensitive. It's literally not for you. It's well sensitive. I'm sure you miss iDubbbz because he doesn't say the N-word anymore, and you love seeing the N-word and hearing it, and you love being bigoted. And while the latter is true, I love being bigoted. It's pretty fun, especially on the weekends. I've said this once, I'll say it again. I was never a huge iDubbbz fan. I never really got into it. Sure, I did watch him from time to time. Not then and not now will I ever put him in top 10, top 20 YouTubers of all time. The Annoying Orange had more impact in my life than iDubbbz. Recently, iDubbbz made this video called Cartnarks, iDubbbz Complains, and the reception is not too good. 11,000 likes versus almost 7,000 dislikes. So, in case you guys don't know what a Cartnark is, it's his YouTube channel with over 500.
Dude, these commentary channels are fucking cancerous.
Siren.
Time. It feels like I don't even watch YouTube despite being a YouTuber, but I promise you guys I do. I just, there's so many YouTubers I can't watch shopping. It's extremely fucking annoying whenever there's a car right
about the Cartnark. Now, if you're not familiar with Cartnarks, it's basically this guy, Sebastian.
I already explained it, iDubbbz. Let's just move on.
Be a better person and not be so lazy bones. What we do is we narc out people who are being big old lazy bones and not taking their carts back. You're being a lazy bone.
And I do have a handicap, actually.
Is your disability lazy bones-itis?
There's a lot of people who say, like, yeah, this ain't so bad. The Cartnark, he's hitting people with the white people insult.
Yes, iDubbbz, that's what I think. I don't think lazy bones is an offensive term. Unless you deem it offensive with this new haircut you got going on. I don't know, is it taking over your brain? Has the hair gone into your ear and, it's manipulating your brain that now you're triggered and offended over the word lazy bones? The first thing that comes to mind when I hear lazy bones is the Green Day song. Which is a banger, okay? Just want to put it out there. That song fucking slaps. It's not a strong insult. You know a lot about insults and certain words. What's next? Cracker is offensive. Lazy bones is offensive. Are you gonna cry? Are you gonna piss yourself? Are you gonna shit yourself because someone calls someone else a lazy person lazy bones? Is this a mature content that you said you were working on 7 months ago that you were moving on from? This is the mature content? This is what you actually wanted to put out? Being offended over lazy bones? iDubbbz is definitely someone that doesn't put the cart back. He just leaves it there.
What's so wrong with that? It's like, dude, if someone called you lazy bones, would you not feel fucking awful?
No, I wouldn't. If someone called me the N-word, I probably would. If someone called me a beaner, I wouldn't. If someone called me a cartel gang member or,
Dude, what is iDubbbz fucking doing?
A little bit of a headache. I gotta rewind. Maybe I'm tripping.
He's hitting people with the white people insults. What's so wrong with that? It's like, dude, if someone called you lazy bones, would you not feel fucking awful? Especially if you're being lazy? That shit is like a level 9 white people insult. Those hurt. It's in that weird area of like, you're not being like barbaric. You're not calling someone an asshole and flipping them off. Fuck you, asshole. It's like when you see someone doing that, almost like violent and aggravated, you almost feel bad because it's like, ooh, you don't have control of what's going on here.
Job, you fucking loser.
Another point that I'd like to address, I think often goes unnoticed by people, and that is 2 people can be assholes simultaneously. Or 2 parties, however you want to put it. You can dislike both people and think that they're both being unreasonable and shitty. The person not taking their car back, yeah, absolutely. Unreasonable, lazy, whatever you want to like attribute to them. But to pretend that Agent Sebastian isn't being an asshole and he isn't being an unreasonable piece of shit, like, come on.
Dude, Anissa ruined him. Holy fuck, dude. He is absolutely cucked to fucking oblivion. Of all people to go after, the fucking Cartnarks, who are basically fucking doing what everybody wants to do and hold these fucking lazy assholes who leave their cart in the parking lot to fucking scratch up somebody else's car. Like, wow. He's complaining about the fucking Cartnarks and saying, they're being rude and mean too, and they're hurting people's feelings. What happened to him? Holy shit. Dude, iDubbbz is fucked. Holy crap.
To the House delegation, which was majority Republican. That was absolutely unbelievable. And then on the day of January 6th, trying to capitalize on the violence by him, Giuliani, and Eastman making phone calls to senators and congressmen saying, well, don't you think maybe you guys should delay the vote a little bit? Don't you think they're just really mad about the election? I think he said to McCarthy, they're more upset than you. And his utter dereliction of duty and not doing anything to stop the rioting that happened on January 6th because he was too busy taking advantage of it. I think all of these things are horrible. I look forward to seeing the Jack Smith indictments play out in court, maybe even the Georgia RICO case. But yeah, I think all of these things are unfathomable. And I think when you look at the plot from start to finish, clearly the goal the entire time was to circumvent the peaceful transfer of power. That was the goal from start to finish, whether it was through false claims, whether it was through illegal schemes, or whether it was through violence at the Capitol to delay the certification of the vote.
Ben?
So I'm glad you're excited. It's always fun. So there are two elements to incitement of insurrection. One is incitement, the other is insurrection. So incitement has a legal standard. So does insurrection. Neither of those standards are met. So if you're asking me, morally speaking, did Donald Trump do the right thing between November 4th and January 6th? I said, I will continue to say, no, he did not. I think he was saying things that are false, with just factually false about his theories with regard to the election, about the election being stolen, about fraud. This was all adjudicated in court. He did not even bring many of the claims that he's brought publicly and all the rest of that. If we're talking about
who can bench more, Destiny or Shapiro? Well, Destiny lifts weights. Maybe Destiny. Maybe.
Incitement of insurrection is a legal standard. Doesn't meet any of those standards. When it comes to incitement, it has to be incitement to immediate lawless action. That's the standard for incitement. And I'm very meticulous in how I use this because I happen to speak publicly a lot, and that means there are lots of people who listen to me, which means some of those people are probably crazy. And some of them may go and do a crazy thing. Did I incite them? The media tend to use the word incitement very loosely with regard to this sort of stuff, in the same way that Bernie Sanders, quote unquote, incited the congressional baseball shooting. He did not. Bernie Sanders has a lot of things I disagree with. I think Bernie's a schmuck. Doesn't matter. He did not incite that. So saying bad things is not the same thing as inciting violence. Inciting violence, the legal standard in the United States is, I want you to go punch that guy in the face. That's inciting. With regard to insurrection, typically in insurrection, and there are some descriptions in case law, though none in statutory law, as far as I'm aware, the typical description in case law is the replacement of one legitimate government of the United States with another by violent means. The notion that Donald Trump coordinated any such insurrection is belied by the FBI itself. The FBI put out a report in, I believe it was August of 2021, suggesting that there was no well-coordinated insurrectionist attempt coordinated by the White House. In fact, what you had was Donald Trump thrashing around like that weird alien in the movie Life. I don't know if you ever saw it with Jake Gyllenhaal, where he's like kind of thrashing up against this glass box, just an alien just thrashing up against the glass box. That I think is more what you were seeing from November 4th to January 6th. And then again, the claim that January 6th itself was an insurrection. So virtually, I'm not aware that anyone was charged with actual insurrection. There were some people who were charged with seditious conspiracy. There are insurrection statutes that do exist. No one was charged under those particular statutes. There were some people who you could say informally had insurrectionist ideas. Those would be the people who wanted to hang Nancy Pelosi or kill Mike Pence. And those people are in jail right now. And the election went forward. The election was certified. Mike Pence presided over the certification. Mitch McConnell presided over the certification. Joe Biden has been the president for the last...
Oh, here we go. He's using the argument that the insurrection didn't happen, therefore it wasn't an insurrection. Yeah.
3 years. So Donald Trump, by the way, was still president at that point. If he had actively wanted to do what other people who have actually launched coups have done, he would have theoretically called the National Guard not to put down the riot, but to actually depose the sitting government of the United States in the name of a specious legal theory. He did not do that. He did not attempt that. Nobody working for him did that. The most you can say, I think, about what everybody was doing is that, and I want to say everybody. We can talk.
I've always had pretty bad social anxiety. I am especially nervous around anyone with authority over me, like managers/bosses. Any advice on how to deal with this? Also, you sound a lot better.
You might want to consider taking medications for one thing. You can try mindfulness exercises where you try to do things to de-escalate some of these anxious thoughts. So you think about things that these people, like managers or bosses, do that are in your benefit. That are evidence of things that they're interested in your well-being, or nice things they've done for you. And just exposure therapy might help. Just getting used to interacting with these people more might also help. Those are all things that you might want to try. That's really the only advice I have for you, though. Thanks for the donation, Jessica. Hope that helps.
Talk about Trump, because this is really about Trump. He used a phrase that Trump was disseminating knowingly false information. The word that's carrying a lot of weight there is the word knowingly. So knowingly implies
he knew it was false information.
Do I think the information he was disseminating was false? Yes. Do I think that Donald Trump has a unique capacity to convince himself of nearly anything that is to his own benefit? Absolutely. And I think that that's actually what Donald Trump was doing there. And the evidence of that is Donald Trump being a human and all of us watching him for the last several years. So, the idea that he knew it to be false, I'm not even sure those standards apply in any, just assessing him as a human, which is really what we're being asked to do because there's an intent element to this crime. Do you think that today Donald Trump knows that he lost the election?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I don't actually. I think
so I'm glad that you have the attorney background. When we are assessing mens rea, when we're looking at certain criminal statutes where intent is required, it's a reasonable person standard, right? Would a reasonable person have known that they were
No, it depends on the mens rea standard. So it's not the same in every case. If you have to establish individual intent, then it's not enough to say a reasonable person should have known. That would be enough for a negligent statute. Usually when you're talking about reasonable person statutes, just legally speaking, a reasonable person statute is, should a reasonable person have known? That's when you get to like manslaughter. You can't do a reasonable person standard on like first degree murder. So you have to establish actual motive in first degree murder.
But for first degree murder, you don't need the statement of I plan to kill this person or I intend to kill this person. We can prove that state of mind.
You need
evidence.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
sure. You could prove
So I feel like my feeling for Donald Trump was there were all these people around him that he trusted to investigate election fraud. He trusted Barr and the DOJ. He asked Pence, his vice president, to look into it. He asked his chief of staff. He asked his legal counsel. So many people that ostensibly he trusts them if he's asking them to look into it. And when all of them looked into it and reported back to him, no, we found nothing. Unless we're going to literally make the concession that Trump might actually be a delusional psycho man, at that point, should he not have realized, like, well, okay, maybe
that's not. I think he should have realized the day of the election that he lost the election. But that's not. But that's
sure. But I'm saying that, like, at that point, should he not have known that for him to go and propagate those claims that he'd asked all of the people he trusted to research, and then for him to take those claims to Michigan and to Georgia, and then publicly and to try to convince people to throw out the election, you don't think that?
But you're doing the same thing.
Well, on top of that, there's the phone calls that he made. He made the one phone call to the governor of what was it, Georgia or something, where he was asking him to literally fabricate votes. Like, that clearly shows that he knew he lost the election in these states, and he was trying to get people to fabricate votes so that he could win. Like, he was clearly scheming, knowing that he lost.
Reverting to, should a reasonable person have known? Yes, a reasonable person should have known. Did Donald Trump know? That's a different question. And so conflating those two questions is going to get you into some messy territory. By the way, this is why Jack Smith charged the way Jack Smith charged.
Yeah, which wasn't.
Jack Smith did not charge conspiracy. Jack Smith did not charge insurrection. He did not charge seditious conspiracy, right? If the reason is because Jack Smith is a good lawyer. What he's doing is he's actually broadly, I would say pretty obviously, expanding statutory coverage in weird areas in order to cover a thing that doesn't quite fit into any of these legal categories. But the point that I'm making is that Jack Smith is on my side of this. He doesn't think that he can actually establish the intent necessary to convict under a seditious conspiracy or an insurrection.
I agree with that, but I think a lot of the underlying facts, though, because he does bring up those calls to Raffensperger in Georgia, he does bring up in the indictments that they were knowingly false information. So it seems like that's going to be part of the case, maybe not to convict on any of the 4 particular charges that he mentioned, but it seems like that's probably going to be part of what he's going to have to establish in court to convict Trump.
So I want to look at the actual text of the charges. So I'm sorry that I don't have them memorized, but I believe one's a fraud charge that generally does not apply to cases like this. Generally, the fraud charge is like you're trying to steal money from the government.
Sure, fraud has been used pretty broadly in the past, though. It doesn't have to just be, because Smith has done oral arguments in response to a lot of the claims by Trump's lawyers. This was one of them. The infinite civil and criminal immunity was another one of them, where he cites past cases where these types of things, because I think it was to defraud of civil rights, I think was the 4th charge.
Right, so the defraud of civil rights is usually somebody standing in the actual like voting house door and preventing you from voting, not you have a specious legal theory that you espouse in court about whether those votes should be thrown out.
Sure. Although I don't like when we say specious legal theory and novel application, which I do agree some of these in some ways is novel, I don't think we've ever also had a president try to do this before. It is a novel situation where somebody has resisted the peaceful transfer of power this clearly in so many different ways.
Well, if you're talking about the legal cases, that's not true. But Gore sued in 2000. I mean, so like if you're talking about the legal cases,
comparable to Gore, if this was comparable to Gore, then
I'm not saying it's comparable to Gore. I'm saying that if the idea is that espousing a legal theory in court amounts to de facto some form of election denial or interference in some way, that can't. That's not, as a general principle, it's over-inclusive.
Sure. Gore wasn't trying to decertify the vote, though, for states, right? They challenged their thing to the Supreme Court. They lost their case in the Supreme Court, and then power transfer happened.
Right, and Donald Trump had a bunch of legal challenges, and then he had a rally, and then there was a riot, and then he left power.
Yeah, but the Eastman theory of what Pence could do in Congress is a far cry away.
A truly shitty theory. I mean, make no mistake. It's
but not
really
just shitty. I think that if any Democrat had done this, I feel like we'd be looking at it in a far different lens. As in, we would be using terms like attempted coup, subversion, or peaceful transfer of power if a Democrat vice president had tried to essentially say that in Congress they could throw away the vote.
So I think what I want to get to here, actually, so we can be more specific, is why are these terms important? We agree on, largely speaking, what happened. I think the characterization of the term, we keep kind of bouncing around between two different categories. And I want to make sure we chat.
Are we the legal stuff?
Okay, so we're just
not looking at incitement, because like you said, Jack Smith, nobody's charging with incitement, and I don't believe insurrection is a part of it. So we're talking legal. Just in terms of like a president that is trying to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. So we do call that a bloodless coup or whatever contemporaneous term you want to use.
Right. So prevent the peaceful transfer of power with all means, or using means that are inappropriate, not quite the same thing.
Using means that are inappropriate or illegal.
Okay. Inappropriate. Okay. So illegal, I don't think so. I don't think that these charges actually meet the criteria for the various charges, and we can discuss each case if you want.
Sure.
As far as inappropriate, sure, I think tons of inappropriate stuff. I mean, inappropriate seems.
The reason I don't like the word inappropriate, though, is because then conservatives are very quick to say, well, sure, he was inappropriate, but everybody was inappropriate.
I mean, I'll concede that he's more inappropriate than others. I just don't see
most inappropriate.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, that's important to me, though. Does it not bother you that, like, Donald Trump sought through legal and extra legal and Trump magical ways of trying to entrench his power as president past when he should have been able to? Is that not something that was incredibly troublesome?
I mean, the question to me is the bigger question that I think the Democrats are trying to promote in this election.
Yeah, I know about Muhammad Ajab. We've seen his videos. He's fucking nutcase. He's a terrorist.
Cycle, which is this means he is a threat to democracy sufficient that if he were to win the election, there would not be another.
Is that not, but he
and my
tried
answer
to
to that.
See, Kid Boo, don't need to tell her she's speaking facts or not. Why is it so hard for women to admit that they purposefully wear revealing or skin-tight clothes for male attention validation? We all know that's the reason. You don't wear tight or revealing clothes for yourself. Stop the cap. I mean, people wear clothes that they think they look good in. And for women, a lot of the time that means tight and revealing clothes. Like, anybody who's cared about how they're dressing, like, yeah, you care about how other people perceive you, but there's also an aspect of self-perception that you're trying to satisfy. So there's an aspect of, like, yeah, you want to make sure you look good for other people so that you can get positive attention, but anytime you put on clothes that you think you look good in and you look at yourself in the mirror, there's also, like, some sort of self-validation that you're trying to fulfill. So, I mean, she's kind of right and wrong. Thanks for the donation, Kid Boo.
Last time, could he not try to next time?
And I mean, he could try to do whatever he wants, presumably, and he would fail the same way that he did last time.
Why do we think that?
Because he failed.
Because
there was a riot, and within 3 hours, yes.
Like, let's say hypothetically, Lord, save me. Let's say hypothetically, Giuliani was the next head of the Department of Justice. Giuliani was the next Attorney General.
How would he be confirmed?
I'm not entirely sure if because so much of the Republican Party, despite feeling like they don't support Trump, when it comes time to actually back him in Congress.
Also, I'd have to check whether he would be barred by criminal conviction from holding. I don't know the answer to that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. Especially the 14th Amendment. We're figuring out all of this right now. Yeah. But I mean, like, say if not Giuliani, say if there are any other number of insane people that Trump could theoretically put on his side of the government that.
Do you think GTA 6 will run at 60 FPS on PS5? Probably not. It's probably gonna be at like a 30, 45-ish FPS target.
Wouldn't tell him no next time, because there were a lot of people that rebuked him. There were Republicans in a lot of the states, right? Raffensperger is one of them. There were Republicans in his own administration. You've got Rosen, you've got Barr. There was his own vice president. But like theoretically next time, and I feel like last time going in, I'm going to do a little bit of mind reading and macro. Maybe you agree, maybe disagree. I think that Trump kind of thought, one, I don't think Trump knows much at all about how the government works. I think we probably agree with that. I think Trump probably thought that if he had people that were like at least in his party and kind of camp, that they'll basically do whatever needs to be done to give him what he wants, and with no respect for process. But now that he sees it, well, it's not enough to just have allies. I need people that are fiercely allegiant to me. Would we not be worried that a guy that tried to essentially steal the election for real wouldn't try to pick people that would be more amenable to his plans in the next administration?
I believe in the checks and balances of American government. I believe they worked on January 6th. So if you're asking me, do I think that Trump has bad intent or could have bad intent with that sort of stuff? Sure. Do I believe that the guardrails held and will continue to hold? Also, sure.
So if somebody was running and they blatantly said, like, I don't want to use the fascist word, but if they said, like, I want to be an authoritarian, I'm going to abolish all elections, you would say, sure, he's saying that, but like, I don't think he can actually do it. So it's okay if he runs for president. You don't care at all as long as you feel like the guardrails.
I mean, I might prefer other candidates, but I think that also one of the things that you do is that politicians, again, this would be an exceptional circumstance, but politicians constantly make promises about the things that they are going to do and then don't fulfill. And we tend to take those out in the wash, meaning that, you know, if I promise that day one, as Donald Trump has pledged to do, that he's going to deport literally every illegal immigrant into the country, do I think he's actually going to do that? I mean, I really highly doubt it. He didn't do it last time he was in office. That's just, there are many examples of this.
I agree.
Do I think, here's my question. Do you think the guardrails are going to fail to hold?
I'm not sure.
Really?
Yeah, because I think the issue is one, when it's election time, Republicans are spineless in office. And I don't know how many congressmen would support what he wants just because they want to win re-election or because they think it's inevitable anyway.
Well, I mean, I think that one of the things that happened in 2022 is Democrats ran directly on this platform and a bunch of Republicans lost who were running on this platform. Literally every Secretary of State who ran on the Donald Trump we should deny elections platform lost in every state.
Sure, but other Republicans that have been
office is this.
Sure, but I mean, like, look at what happened with like Kinzinger and Cheney, right? Who were very like staunchly anti-Trump after J6 for that select committee, right? Kinzinger didn't even run again again, and Cheney lost her election by I think the widest margin that anybody has ever lost an election ever in
Right, yeah, yeah.
like all of U.S. politics.
People who were not yet born voted against.
Yeah,
Yes.
I guess it's a surprising position to me if we're looking at like principled stances of government. The idea that a man who has, and I think we both agree on this, that Donald Trump's only allegiance is to Donald Trump, right? We agree on that. The only thing he cares about is Donald
I
Trump.
don't think it's the only thing he cares about. I think it's certainly the largest thing.
It's the largest thing he cares about, right? So you've got a man who only cares about himself.
Welcome
not
to
even-
politics. I mean, it may be more,
But that's not even-
It may be more with Trump, but it's certainly not unique
But
to Trump.
I think that the issue with Trump too, though, is I think he's even a threat to the Republican Party, in which I think you would mostly agree with me. Maybe not overall, but on every individual point, Trump picks bad candidates. He has no concern for the future of the Republican Party. Like, for instance, I think there is a chance. I don't think it'll happen because of how the polling looks now. But if Trump didn't get the nomination, I think Trump would say screw it and run as an independent because he thinks he can win or whatever, right?
I doubt that he would do that, but theoretically,
It's possible.
he could.
Yeah.
I mean, again,
he was really content to throw Georgia, the 2 runoff elections under the bus because Raffensperger didn't support him for the election.
So,
stuff. Like,
what is all this in service of? What's the generalized argument that you're making? Do you believe? I'll go back to my question. Do you think that if Trump wins, there will be no more elections? Is that like what put a percentage on it? What percentage do you think that's a reality?
If Donald Trump wins, I think there is a 100% chance that he will try to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. In terms of would he succeed?
I can guarantee you he will not do that.
Why is that?
Because he's in his second term and he's no longer eligible, and he will believe he won and he will leave.
Yeah, but hasn't Donald Trump himself joked about running for a third term? I think that having a third term.
What has Donald Trump not joked about? I mean, for God's sake.
I don't. Okay, hold on.
If you want to prevent him from creating a revolution, you probably should actually just appoint him president and then he can't run again.
Here's another broad argument that I don't like in favor of Trump, and this was brought up earlier in terms of like we talk about like not grading presidents on a curve, but then earlier we said we take Biden's rhetoric.
Oh no, I totally grade Trump. No, I 100% grade presidents on a curve. Are you kidding?
Oh, okay.
I grade pretty much everybody on a curve.
Then I feel like
I don't treat my 7-year-old the same way that I treat my 9-year-old.
Sure, but I don't like that. It feels like we're treating Donald Trump like a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old. I think we should treat him like the president of the United States. I don't think having a president that has taken like concrete steps to prevent the transfer of power, which he did with the electorate sham, which he did with Pence, and which he did with trying to capitalize on the J6 violence, a president that's taken concrete steps towards cooing the government, essentially. I don't know why that guy, we'd say, well, it's Trump, he does Trump things. The guardrails held, we'll probably hold next time.
So, I mean, when we say we shouldn't, do you mean that he should be actually barred from office?
I'm just talking about support for him. I don't even think Republicans should support Trump. You lose your incumbent advantage. The guy's obviously self-destructive. He's destructive to the political party itself. Like,
you think he should be on the ballot? You think there's a case to be made to remove him from the ballot?
I think there's a case to be made, but man, the phrasing, for as much as our governmental founding fathers and everybody else, wrote nice amendments and wrote nice in the Constitution, some of the phrasing is very, very, very blah. And the Section 3, the not requiring any type of actual conviction, I don't have a strong feeling on it. I will say I'm very interested in reading the majority opinion from the Supreme Court. I seriously doubt the Supreme Court is going to uphold that states should be able to decide if they leave them off the ballot or not. I think for the political future of the United States, it's probably not healthy that the leading opposition candidate is now going to be barred from the ballot. It's probably not healthy for us. Because then what?
You want to talk about threats to democracy? That would be a pretty serious one. Applied across the board, by the way.
It would be. However, like that threat to democracy was earned by Donald Trump and the conservatives that supported him. I think conservatives made a dangerous gamble when they threw Trump into office, and now like all of the fallout from that is something that we all as Americans have to deal with.
I mean, I think that the unprecedented legal theory that a state can simply bar somebody from the ballot on the basis of, in an informal way, believing that he is quote unquote an insurrectionist is pretty wild. I mean, we can say
it's pretty wild, but there is an amendment in the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, that says that if they have engaged in this, they shall not be, or you shall. I don't remember the phrasing because it doesn't require conviction, but it's a self-executing, arguably thing.
If we're getting into constitutional law, I mean, there are a number of provisions that suggest that this is, number one, not self-executing. I mean, minority opinions in the Colorado Supreme Court case are pretty thorough. The number one contention, which is that this is not self-executing because other elements are not self-executing, that ignores subsequent actual law that happened. I mean, the Congress passed a law, for example, in 1872 defining who was an insurrectionist, who was not an insurrectionist for purposes of elections. In 1994, Congress passed a law that specifically defined insurrection as a criminal activity so that somebody could theoretically be convicted of insurrection and therefore ineligible to run for office. It is unlike, say, the analogs that are used by the majority opinion, like age. Obviously, this is not the same thing. We can all tell what somebody's age is by looking at their birth certificate. I can't tell whether somebody's an insurrectionist without any reference to a legal statute or a definition of the term.
I would also be careful with that because remember, one of Trump's first big political actions was challenging Obama's birth certificate.
Well, and I thought that was dumb at the time. But
sure.
in any case,
I like that you both said 100% chance that Trump will try to go for third term and 0% chance, which statistically...
Third term, he's done, man. Are you kidding?
He would want to.
Trump's going to walk around, hands up high, and be like, I'm a two...
I can guarantee you, if Trump gets elected, he's going to try to go for a third term. Can guarantee you. He's going to try to amend the Constitution or something, or do something weird, try to get another third term.
Two-term president. I'm the only president since Grover Cleveland who would know, but since Grover Cleveland who served 2 non-consecutive terms. I kicked Joe Biden out of office and I kicked Hillary Clinton out of office. Dude would be like, he'd be living large. Are you kidding? He doesn't want the presidency anymore after that.
I just think that I think it's scary that like Donald Trump, it feels like for all of the accusations that are made sometimes against Democrats, like Biden is ordering Garland to investigate Donald Trump and blah, blah, blah. It seems like Donald Trump would actually do that with his DOJ, would give them orders.
He didn't. He didn't.
Well,
he
kind of did though, right? So for instance, with Jeffrey Clark went to Rosen and Donahue and said, hey, listen, I need you guys to sign off on a letter that we're going to use essentially to bully states into overturning their elections by saying we found significant election fraud. And part of that threat was Jeffrey Clark saying, listen, if you're not going to do it, Rosen, Trump's going to fire you and just make me the acting attorney general. That was the threat that he carried. And I think Trump repeated that threat in a meeting later on that was, I only rebuked when I think like half the White House staff said, if you do this, we're resigning.
Okay, so that's a slightly different topic because now you're getting into all the election shenanigans and all this, but...
I'm saying he threatened to fire his acting attorney general if he wouldn't carry the same platform, essentially. Like, if Trump could order his DOJ to do something, would he? It's not beyond the pale for him, right?
It's not beyond the pale for him to order them to do it, and then it's not beyond the pale for them to reject him doing that, which is the story of his entire administration. Whereas Joe Biden orders his DOJ to do things, and then they just do them.
Well, I'm not. We can get into specifics there. This
is one of the big problems that I have with, for example, all the talk about Trump tyrant, Trump executive power. Joe Biden has used executive power in ways that far outstrip
every
anything
president has been stretching executive power.
Joe Biden is Joe Biden has gone well beyond anything Trump even remotely attempted to maintain via just pure executive power. And actually, Trump's use of executive power is nowhere near even what Obama's was.
Trump's inability to get border policy passed literally had him using executive power to march the military down to the border to do border policy.
Joe Biden literally used the Occupational Safety and Hazard Administration to try to cram down vax mandates on 80 million Americans. That's insane.
Sure,
he literally said, I cannot relieve student loan debt, and then tried to relieve hundreds of billions of dollars in student
but what
loan
happened
debt.
to that?
It got struck down by the Supreme Court, and then they still did it. Biden bragged about it
for what he was able to relieve, which I think were related to particular types of student loan debt. But I'm saying that the guardrails are holding with Biden as much as they're holding with Trump. The only difference is that once Biden exhausts his executive power, he's not running around lying to people or trying to extort people or trying to and concoct insane schemes.
Well, here's the way I would think of this. Think of the guardrails holding as the filter. Sure. Okay, meaning the coffee is in the filter. Some of it's what you want is going to get through, and all the stuff. The guardrails prevent the other stuff from getting through. Mm-hmm. Now the question becomes, what liquid are you pouring into the filter? Okay, meaning so if a filter exists.
Yeah, him fucking using the student loan debt thing as an example of Biden overstepping his executive power. Are you fucking kidding me? That is just so weak.
If the guardrails hold, and if Donald Trump can't steal elections, what's the policy that comes through the other end of the filter? The policy I get from Donald Trump on the other end of the filter is a bunch of stuff that I like. The policy that I get from Joe Biden on the other end of the filter is a bunch of bullshit I don't. So that's the basic calculation.
Okay, so then the idea is essentially that Donald Trump's rhetoric is insane, but we don't care. Donald Trump would probably try to steal an election if he could, but he probably won't be able to.
He's not going to do it again. I told you. He's not.
You don't think he has any? Why not?
Because he won't be eligible to be on the ballot in. By the way, you want to talk about 14th Amendment? Mm-hmm. That's where the 14th Amendment applies. Okay, that's where it actually applies. Meaning you cannot. He is not qualified to be on the ballot in 2028 if he is the president of the United States. States can literally, in self-executing fashion, take him off the ballot. Just like he's past the age of 35. Once you have been president 2 times, you're no longer eligible to be president of the United States. Then you actually have a strong little case to keep him off the ballot.
Why would the 14th Amendment stop him if he thought Vice President Pence could unilaterally decide the outcome of the election?
When he's not on the ballot? So now your theory is that he's going to get reelected, and then in 2028 he's not even going to be on the ballot, and he's going to direct his new vice president Kerry Lake to simply declare him president of the United States when he has not been on a ballot.
I don't know what the scheme would be. I think we can kind of laugh and say there's no scheme we could even concoct. But I think
Camacho, with the machine gun, he's going to walk in.
I think the issue though is that the idea of electing another president that has tried to circumvent the peaceful transfer of power using extra legal means, and then pretending we can't concoct a single scheme that he could try to circumvent other legal processes to have a third term or to have a longer term or to install who he wants as the next president. When a person has already shown you who they are, and when every single person around him agrees with that, when every single person that's worked with him, save for Sidney Powell, Eastman, and Giuliani, which I don't think anybody would want to throw their lot in with those 3. It just seems wild to me that we would say we're just going to go ahead and trust this guy with another term of president, but he can't run for a third term, so it's fine. When there's 50 million other things.
And I'll make you the case that if you want him not to make election trouble, you should elect him president in the next election cycle, and then he will be ineligible.
Okay, well, I find that to be a wholly unconvincing argument. But okay.
Well, recently in the news, the presidents of Harvard, Penn, and MIT failed to fully denounce calls for genocide. And that rose questions about the influence of DEI programs at universities. And so maybe either looking at this or zooming out more broadly at identity politics at universities or identity politics, wokeism in our culture, how big of a threat is it to our culture, to Western civilization?
So obviously I'm going to say it's a huge threat. The reason that I think there's a huge threat, I want to give a definition of wokeism because people are very often accused of not using wokeism properly or believing that it's sort of a catch-all phrase. I don't think it's a catch-all term. I think that wokeism has its roots in postmodernism, which essentially suggests that every principle is a reflection of underlying structures of power, and that therefore any inequality that emerges under such a system is a reflection, again, of that structure of power that used to be applied in sort of Marxist ways, the suggestion being that economic inequality was the result of misallocation of power in the structure preserved by an upper crust of people who wanted to cram down exploitation on people. That was sort of the Marxist version of postmodernism. And then it got transmuted into sort of a racial version of postmodernism, in which the systems of the United States are white supremacist in orientation and are perpetuated by a group of people who are, in fact, in favor of the preservation of white power and white supremacy. That is the generalized theory of critical race theory, as proposed by, for example, Gene Stefanczyk and Richard Delgado in their book on critical race theory. That has taken a softer form that we refer to as DEI. The key in DEI is the E, meaning equity. So equity is a term that does not mean equality. People mix it up. Equality is the idea that we all ought to have equal rights, that we all ought to be treated equally by the law. Equity is the idea that if there is an inequality that emerges from any system, it is therefore due to discrimination. And the best way to tell whether somebody has been victimized is by dint of their race. And we can tell whether you're a member of an oppressed group or an oppressor group by the intersectional identity that you carry and by the nature of your group's success or failure predominantly along economic and power lines in American life. This means that if one group is predominantly successful economically, they must be a member of the victimizing class. And the only corrective for that would be, as Ibram X. Kendi likes to suggest, effectively anti-racist policies, racism in the service of destroying racism. That you're going to have to discriminate on the basis of race in order to correct for discrimination.
40 seconds in Kali Muscle.
Let me take a look. Oh yes, I remember this.
Computer screen like a little pussy. Do you like getting your ass pounded, Callie? What happens if someone wants to fight you in real life? Do you just bend over and show them your little ass and say, "Oh, please don't fight me, just fuck my ass instead"? Do you also offer to...
I remember that, yes. I got really pissed off that Cali Muscle was copyright striking my videos. I remember this. Thanks for the donation, Mike Cummings.
That's baked into the system. That's incredibly dangerous. It leads to a victim-victimizer narrative that is unhealthy for individuals and terrible for societies. It relieves people of individual responsibility, and it destroys the very notion of an objective metric by which we can decide meritocracy. And meritocracy is the only system human beings have ever devised that has positive externalities in literally any area of life.
Man.
Every other distribution of wealth, power, done along other lines that is not having to do with merit has negative externalities. Every system having to do with merit has positive externalities because presumably the most effective and useful people are going to succeed under those systems. That's the very basis of a meritocracy. And the externalities of that mean that other people benefit from the meritorious and excellent performance of those people.
Maybe it would be good to get your comments, your old stomping ground, Harvard. Do you think the president of Harvard should have been fired?
I mean, I think she should have been fired not over the plagiarism allegations. I think she should have been fired based on her performance just at that congressional hearing. If the word black had been substituted for Jew in that statement, by Elise Stefanik that she was asking about, or trans, or literally any other minority in America, maybe with the exception of Asian, then the answer would have been very different coming from Cloudy and Gay. With that said, I don't think the firing of Cloudy and Gay really accomplishes very much. Meaning, did she get what she deserved? Sure. Does that mean that the underlying DEI equity-based system has been in any way severely damaged? No, I think that this is a way for universities, it's true for Liz McGill at Penn also, to basically throw somebody overboard as the sacrifice to maintain the underlying system that continues to predominate at American universities, where they spend literally billions of dollars every year on DEI initiatives and diversity hires and diversity administrators and all of this. I mean, one of the costs of education escalating is in the massive administrative function that is now undertaken by universities, as opposed to teaching and cost of dorms and such.
You guys probably agree on a lot of this, right?
Kind of, maybe, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what makes things do this, but it feels like we can never have a good thing and then have it end as a good thing. Things always get taken to their extreme, and then we have to fight on those extremes. I would argue that back in my day, we called it SJW, social justice warriors, before it became woke, I think 2013 onwards, whatever. There are aspects to wokeism that I think are good. I like the additional representation that we have in media now. I like how, as much as people complain about the internet and how it's regulated, that there are way more groups that are represented on the internet, whether we're talking X, the platform formerly known as Twitter or Facebook or whatever. I think in some ways, or whether we're pushing, women's achievements in school and in the wider workforce, I think that these are all good things. The issue that you run into is people don't ever have a stopping point, and I think people kind of get lost in this woke for woke's sake thing, where we start to see these very weird warpings of these academic, arguments that are used for really horrible things. So, for instance, I think that you can talk about in the United States things like white supremacy or things like oppression of certain demographics, especially with like Jim Crow laws and pre-Jim Crow, and you can even talk about effects from that. But then when you run into this weird world where we've kind of warped these things so that like not only is white supremacy still as present today as it ever has been, well, actually, black people and other minorities can't even be racist. They don't have the power to because we're going to use a different definition of racism, and we can only talk about punching up as opposed to punching down. And we're actually going to say it's totally okay for these people to say or do whatever they want, and it's never bad. But like white people who have always been the oppressors, even if you're like a trailer park guy whose family's addicted to meth, you know, you have all this privilege, et cetera, et cetera. I think that you run into these issues where wokeism, it starts off as like a really good idea, and I would argue has achieved really good things, especially in regards to like women's education and everything. And then it just gets so academia-ized, so there's a word there, academic, whatever, where you take something and you put it in school too much, and then it comes out as some Frankenstein, you know, cancer baby of like horrible things, such that today when I'm reading stuff, and I know Ben is the same way, like if I even hear somebody say the word like anti-racism, I'm probably ignoring every other thing you have to say. If you utter the word like colonial anything, I'm probably going to say you probably don't have anything good to say. Yeah, a lot of it is just taken way too far. But you know what I will blame on some of this is I will blame conservatives for some of this, because I think one issue that happens, and I think Ben might even agree with me here too, is I think there's two huge problems that have happened in the United States, I think broadly speaking, is that one, we've become more different than we ever have been, and two, we become more similar than we ever have been. And when I say this, what I mean is that like we're splitting off into these groups, and then these groups are enforcing this insane homogeneity between these two separate groups. And I think one of these schisms has been conservatives' reluctancy to participate in things related to higher education. So for a long time, conservatives are saying like, oh, you know, the educational institutions are against us. You know, Rush Limbaugh talks about how evil the colleges are and blah, blah, blah. And then what happens is conservatives are less and less willing to engage in them. So then you get this scenario or this environment where everybody that's engaged in academia on the administrative side are fucking insane. they're like even more so too. And I also want to draw a distinction between like the administrators and the faculty, because oftentimes when you're reading story after story after story of like all of these insane admins that are pushing further and further left, usually the faculty is fighting against it. A lot of the tenured professors, a lot of people in their departments are saying like, hold on, well, we actually don't agree with this. But I feel like because conservatives for so long have demonized these institutions rather than like critically evaluated them and tried to like have like honest critique and engagement, that they've just like completely broken off. And when you only have a bunch of lefties or righties together, all they'll do is they'll veer off like even more into their insane directions. I feel like that's a big problem that we run into in the country, to where conservatives have totally broken off some conversations, broken away from where they won't participate in them anymore. And then the people that you have left just run as far to the left as possible.
Certainly when you look at certain institutions, I think that one of the things that people on both sides of the aisle are constantly looking at is, has the institution suffered such capture that there's just no capacity to fix it? And when you talk about the universities, I'm not going to blame conservatives for the failure of the universities, because they haven't been present in major positions at universities since effectively the late 1960s. And you can go read Shelby Steele's work on this, where he talks about how, you know, he's now a conservative black person. He was a liberal black person at the time. He was actually quite a radical black activist at the time in the 60s. And he talks about walking into the office of liberal administrators who were largely on his side with regard to civil rights, and being a radical, him claiming that the systems of the university were inherently broken, were inherently wrong, unfixable. And he talks about this it's a very evocative episode where he's talking about how he's smoking. And as he's smoking, the ash is growing more and more, and the ash falls down on this very expensive carpet. And the president of the university, who's listening to him rant and rave, he said, Shelby Steele says, I thought he was going to say something about this. I mean, I was wrecking like $1,000 carpet in his office being a jackass. And instead, I could see him wilt inside. I could see him collapse. He didn't have the institutional credibility or the intellect or sort of the spiritual strength to just say, listen, I agree with you on some of these things, but you're acting like a jackass. And what you see in the late 1960s and early 1970s is, in fact, the collapse of these institutions, to the point where by the time I was going to college, there was this radical disproportion between conservatives and liberals. And the problem is that when it comes to a system like the universities, basically you have to separate the universities off into two separate categories. One is STEM, where the universities are still pretty damn good. And American universities, when it comes to STEM, are still leading universities in the world. Harvard's main creations these days are coming from actual hard science fields. Then you have the liberal arts field, in which you basically have a self-perpetuating elite, because that's actually how dissertations work. If you have somebody who's very far to the left and you decide that you're going to write a dissertation on the history of American gun rights, the chances that that is going to be approved by your dissertation advisor are much lower than if you happen to write something that tends to agree with the political positions of your dissertation advisor. Now, listen, I think there are open and tolerant professors, even in the liberal arts at these universities. I went to these universities, right? I went to UCLA, I went to Harvard Law School. When I was at Harvard Law School, one of my favorite professors was Lonnie Guinier. Lonnie Guinier, they tried to appoint her, I believe, Secretary of Labor under Clinton, and she was too liberal, and she got rejected. So she was like a full-on communist. By the time I went there, she was great. We had debates every day. It was wonderful. She used to write me recommendations for my legal jobs after we left. Randall Kennedy, I don't agree with him very much. Randall Kennedy was a terrific professor. There are some professors who are like this. Unfortunately, there tends to be in these echo chambers more and more ideological conformity that is rigorously enforced, and it is by left on left. So, for example, when I was at Harvard Law School, the president of the university was another president who ended up being ousted, Larry Summers. Larry Summers had been the Secretary of Treasury under Bill Clinton, and he made the critical error of suggesting that perhaps the dearth of women in hard sciences in prestigious positions was due to possibly two factors that people were refusing to talk about. One was the possibility that women actually didn't want to be in hard sciences at nearly the rates that men do, which happens to be true. And two was the distribution of STEM IQ, right? Which is something that you certainly were not allowed to talk about. The idea that the men's bell curve when it comes to IQ, particularly on STEM subjects, tends to be shallower than women's bell curves. When you get to the very end of the bell curve, what you tend to see is a lot of really dumb guys and a lot of really smart guys. And so when you're talking about the top universities, maybe that has something to do with the disproportion. And he's trying to explain that to say that our systems are not discriminating. If we end up with more men than women, maybe more men are applying, more men are qualified. That's why he was ousted for that by a left-wing faculty and general alum network at Harvard University. So there's a lot to blame conservatives for surrendering the playing field. I totally agree that conservatives should not have surrendered the playing field in some institutions. Colleges were surrendered a lot earlier than 20 years ago. They were surrendered in the late 1960s, early 1970s.
Yeah, so I think that a couple things. So one of the big issues that I have with kind of like this, I don't know if we call it era of Trumpism or populism, is this total disregard for institutions and this disconnect from participation in the system. So it's one of the big things that I fight with progressives about, who cares because they're all 20 years old, they don't vote anyway. But it's another thing that I notice with a lot of people that are Trump voters, Trump fans, or whatever, is this idea where we say this institution is irrevocably destroyed. It's irredeemable. It can't be saved. Nothing that we do can fix it. And I think that what that leads people to doing is, one, they disconnect further, and then two, there's a general hopelessness when it comes to how society is like ran or structured, such that you fall into that populist brain rot of the only person that can save me is Donald Trump. I can't trust literally anything. And I think that when you start driving people into that direction, all it does is it further amplifies all the problems that you were complaining about. So that's one of the reasons why when we talk about like conservative participation, I want there to be more conservatives that are trying to participate in academia, but I feel like the leading thought or the leading speaking out against it is basically saying it's a waste of time. It's completely lost.
So I think that the alternative to that is that you're seeing on the right a growth of, for example, alternative universities. Saying,
yeah, but this is the worst thing.
No, I don't think so at all. I think competition is a great way of incentivizing some change on behalf of universities that may have forgotten that there's an entire...
Okay, guess what? Jordan Peterson's university is going fucking nowhere. It's unaccredited. He's a fucking idiot. That business is going to be run into the fucking ground.
Another side of the aisle in the United States.
No shot. I don't think even you think that.
So first of all, let me make clear.
Sup, dude? Did you watch Hassan's interview of the Houthi influencer? It's pretty pathetic and cringe. I can't reach the bar when squatting for low bar squats. Can I do high bar squats until I can?
So, I did not see the interview. I've seen some clips of it, and basically, yeah, Hassan yucks it up with this fucking terrorist. I don't know how he's not banned off the fucking platform yet. It's crazy. You can't reach the bar when squatting for low bar squats. I don't know what you mean by that. Do you mean you can't hold the bar properly? Is that what you're, like, saying? You don't have the mobility for it? You don't need to do low bar squats. You can just do high bar squats indefinitely. There's no real need to do low bar squats. And really, for hypertrophy and just for general athletics, high bar squatting is probably better for you anyway. Low bar squatting is just better if you need to lift higher absolute loads. So if you're going to go into a powerlifting competition. But high bar is better for hypertrophy. I think it's better for developing strength. For expressing strength, low bar is better, but for developing strength, I think high bar is better anyway. But yeah, I mean, you can just slowly work on your upper body mobility to where you can like hold the bar properly for low bar, but there's no need to even do low bar. Thanks for the donation. Forgot my namification. Hope that helps.
I think the entire educational system at the upper levels, if you're not in STEM, is a complete scam. I think it's a complete waste of money. I think it's a complete waste of time. And I think that it's all it is a formalized, very expensive sorting mechanism for people of IQ. That's all it is. People take an SAT, you go to a good school, you take 4 years of bullshit. I know, I did it at UCLA. And then we analyze based on your degree where you should go to law school. I could have gone directly from high school to law school with maybe 1 year of training and then done 1 year of law school and been done. Okay, the reality is that this is a giant scam. And this, again, is a bipartisan problem, but it's just a generalized problem. We have... You want to talk about things that hurt the lower classes in the United States? The bleeding of degrees up is so wild and crazy. There's so many jobs in the United States that should not require a college degree that we now require a college degree to do, because there was this weird idea that came over Americans where they mistook correlation for causation. They would say, oh, look, people who go to college are making more money than people who don't go to college. Therefore, everyone should go to college. Well, maybe the reason is because people who are going to college were better qualified for particular jobs because on average, not all the time, but on average, a lot of those people were smarter and making more money because of that. And so all you've done is you've now created these additional layers of stratification. So a person who used to be able to get a job with a college degree now has to have a postdoc degree in order to go get that degree. A person who used to be able to just graduate high school, now it's de facto you got to go to JUCO and then you got to go to college, or nobody's going to look at your resume. It's really, really terrible for people who can't afford all of that. It's led to this massive increase in educational cost that is inexplicable other than this particular sort of bleed up. And by the way, federal subsidies.
Yeah, I totally agree with Ben here.
For higher education. Again, one of my problems with federal subsidies for higher education, I'd love for everyone to be able to go to college if qualified to do so and if it is productive. But one of the things I did when I went to law school is I took loans because a bank said I was going to get my money back if I got a law degree from Harvard. But you know when you're not going to get your money back? If you're a bank, you're not going to lend to some dude who wants to major in, art theory, because is that a good bet? There's no collateral, right? If I give a loan for a house, I can go repossess the house. How do I repossess your garbage college degree from UCLA? There's no way to do that. So, this is a broader conversation about education in general. I think the educational system is cruising for a bruising, and I think all that's necessary for it to completely collapse on the non-STEM side where you actually learn things is for people who employ to simply say, give me your SAT score and I will hire you for an apprenticeship directly out of high school. That it would cut out so much of the middleman. But as far as the general point that you're making about institutions, I may disagree on the education and how far it's gone. In general, I agree with you. So it's in general, I agree. And I get to use my favorite longest word in the English language here. I would consider myself in many cases an anti-disestablishmentarianist.
Nice.
Right? See, I like to drop that. That's because if you're an establishmentarian, that means you like disestablishmentarianism. Right. So I'm an anti. So
can you say that word, Dustin?
That's the one we all learned growing up. Anti-disestablishmentarianism.
There
the
you
longest
go.
word in the dictionary.
So he's also. But
and then some Canadian group would say, "What about supercalifragilistic?" And then you're
what about pneumal ultramicroscopic?
Yeah, or the science terms.
Yeah, exactly.
Or what about the 7,000 letter thing that's from part of biochemistry?
I got my education in the Soviet Union, so we just did math. I didn't learn any of this.
That's why you're a useful person.
Soviet Union math was at 1 + 1. How to make that equal 3?
We know long words, and he streams on the internet, and I talk for a living. So anyway, but the point is that I don't disagree that there is a general populist tendency on all sides of the aisle to look at the institutions and then throw them overboard. I think that some of that is earned by people who are in positions of power at institutions who have completely undermined the faith and credibility of those institutions. I think you have to examine institution by institutions which ones are salvageable and which ones are not. So I'm not a full anti-disestablishmentarian.
This is only at 1.25 times speed, so they just talk fast.
I'd be partially in that camp. There are certain institutions like higher education in the liberal arts that I think we may be better off without. And then there are certain institutions like, say, participation in American government, where when people talk about we need
Let me put it at normal speed just to see what they normally sound like.
a revolution, I'm like, no, we don't. That's not a thing. We need an evolution. We need change. We can use the system. And but I think you have to you have to look at it industry by industry.
Yeah, they talk pretty fast.
Just
institution by institution.
On that position on institutions, do you think Biden or Trump would side with you more?
As far as the institutions?
Yeah.
I think the institutions in the United States at the governmental level are robust. I think the social institutions are failing.
Yeah, but I'm just curious on your general view of institutions. Do you think Biden or Trump would side with you more on how you view them?
I mean, I think that in rhetoric, Biden would, and then I think that he would tear out the face of the institution and wear it around like a mask like Hannibal Lecter. I mean, that's
not actual... He resisted some people's calls to pack the court and...
Yes, because I think that his use of executive power was greater than that.
Oh, I thought you were a low bar squat advocate. My bad. I don't give a shit about lifting competitions. I was just under the impression low bar was superior for some reason. Thanks.
Yeah, low bar just makes it easier to lift with more weight. That's it. You're using less of your quad muscles and more of the muscles around your hips and lower back. So it's superior if you need to lift the highest loads possible, but high bar squatting's better if you want to develop, your quads more. So you want more hypertrophy of your quadriceps muscles. And again, just for general athletics, it's probably a better squat. Thanks for the donation though, man.
Of Donald Trump. The power that he had, he used to greater effect than Donald Trump. Donald Trump, again, thrashed up against the sides of the box, but could not get out of it.
Okay. For just real quick, because on that answer went a lot farther than the initial question.
Yeah.
But, just on the real quick thing, the reason why my main problem that I feel like we have today in society is people are getting into their own bubbles. The idea of having conservative schools and liberal schools seems like the saddest thing in the world to me. I would want conservatives and liberals going to school together because I think these people need to interact with each other more, if for no other reason than to see that the other person is not an actual monstrous, horrible entity that wants to destroy the country.
Listen, I think a classically liberal idea for many schools would not be a bad thing. I think it would be a good thing.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that's salvageable. And if it's not salvageable, then the answer to that is to actually create alternative institutions.
I feel like the biggest issue that we have is they sort into these different like phantom worlds to where even if you live in the same city, there are totally different worlds that exist between liberals and conservatives. And I feel like one of the big barriers to people understanding the other side sometimes it's just a little bit of information or a little bit of like firsthand experience. So in terms of information, I'm sure you saw I don't know if this is a full-on study, but they were talking about how some huge percentage of students would change their mind on From the River to the Sea when you told them what From the River to the Sea
what the river
meant,
was and what the
right?
sea was.
Yeah. Or when you said like, yeah, what does a one-state solution mean? A lot of them, like, such that the numbers went from like 70% to like 30% in terms of like support would fall. And it wasn't because you were doing a radical redefining their whole ideology. You were just giving them a little bit more information. And then something that I've seen on a first-hand level is when I go and speak or do debates at university, sometimes I'm in very, very, very conservative areas. Some of my fans are trans. Having like a trans person show up and talk to conservatives for a little bit, not like in a speech, but just like in like a bar or a setting, like a lot of them walk away thinking like, oh, not every trans person is like this insane lunatic from Twitter that is a fucking an actual crazy person. And then for some of my fans, when they hang out with conservatives, like, oh, these guys are actually pretty friendly. I thought they would have all been homophobic, racist, transphobic, and evil, but they're not. They're just like normal people. I feel like we need more of that.
I totally agree with that, certainly.
Yeah, and I feel like on our social media platforms, on our algorithms, in our schools, I feel like we're sorting harder and harder and harder. And any type of rhetoric that encourages the sorting is really bad and damaging. We need to like continue to mix up. And there's other things I want to talk about. But Lex is opening his mouth.
Destiny the uniter. Wow. All right,
like Biden. Not like Trump.
As we approach the end, let us descend into the meme further and further. Ben, you're in a monogamous marriage. Destiny, you've been mostly in an open marriage until recently. How foundational is marriage, monogamous marriage, to the United States of America? Can open marriages work? Are they harmful to society? Ben.
Marriages are the single most important thing that people can do in the United States because the things within your control are easier to control than the things outside your control. People tend to think about big political change, obviously, about things they can do to change the entire system. But the reality is the thing that you can do that best changes society is to get married and have kids and raise your kids responsibly. That is the single best thing that you can do. Can an open marriage work? I mean, I think that it depends on your definition of work. So in my version of work, the answer is no, because what you actually need in order to facilitate the healthy growing of a child is a father and mother who are committed to each other. All ideas about there being no emotional component to sexual activity are completely specious. That it is truer for men than it is for women, but it's not true for either. The idea of a full commitment to a human being with whom you genetically create children, which is typically how we've done it throughout human existence, is in fact the fundamental basis for any functional civilization. It allows for the transmission of culture and values. It allows for the transmission of beliefs and responsibility, and it gives the great lie to both the communitarian lie and the atomistic individualist lie. The communitarian lie is that you belong to the giant community of man, which is not true because you have a family, and your allegiance should be and is naturally to the members of your family first. That's how we learn, and then we expound that out. And it also is a lie to the notion that we are all atomistic individuals with no responsibilities. We are born into a world of responsibilities. Everyone is born into a world of responsibilities and rules and roles, and those are good. And if we do not actually socialize our children that way, there will be, number one, no children. Number one, there will be no healthy children. Number two, there will be no healthy children. Number three, there will be not the foundation for either social fabric, which is the real glue that holds together society, or for a functional government. Yes, monogamous marriage. I'm a fan. 15 years married, 4 kids. Yes.
Destiny, what do you think?
I think that when we talk about like relationships or marriage, I think something that's really important is we have to talk about whether or not children are being discussed or not. Because I think once you introduce the child aspect, I think the style or the type of relationship that you do is going to become way more important than whatever exists prior to that. Like I would agree, for instance, in terms of what Ben is saying, that there's probably going to be some structure that is ideal for the care and the raising of a child. I think that having a child gives you a much bigger buy-in to society because now all of a sudden you care about a lot of things that you might not have before because not only do you exist in society, you can't just run. Now you've got a child that exists there and you've got to ensure that everything functions smoothly, not just for you, but for that child as well. And arguably, although we're getting into weird places, I guess, in the world now, like children are the primary conduit for like where you transmit like cultural values and everything. The one kind of weird thing that we're coming up against, that we have been coming up against now for some number of decades and will continue to, is as societies progress, seems like people are having less children. And I actually don't know 100% what the answer is to that question.
I do.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Yeah. I mean, an implementable
Well, people are having less children because it's too fucking expensive.
answer that works, that we know we can get everybody on board with. It seems like for a large part of human history, having children, and it still is, having children is awesome, and children are cool, and children are magical and miraculous and all of this, but you didn't really have much competing for your attention to have a child, right? When you hit a certain age and you started working, especially if you were a woman, I mean, childbirth is kind of the next step, and then having a family, raising your children, and then doing that is kind of the next step. Nowadays, especially with women being able to work, especially with women having access to birth control, there's a lot available in the world that's competing for the interest of people that could otherwise be having children, such that we've almost flipped it, such that, as Ben brought up earlier, like wealthy people tend to have less children than not wealthy people, or unless you're part of particular religious communities that push childbirth a lot. I don't know if I would say there exists a moral imperative on an individual to have children. I think that there's a lot of interesting arguments down that path. I don't know if we're quite at the point yet where we need to say like, oh my God, we're running out of people. We need to have more kids. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we are seeing, weird demographic trends that are having big impacts on how countries are playing out. For instance, the fact that we have a disproportionately huge aging population that needs to be taken care of with medical expenses and everything, that vote in different ways than our younger population, and that when they die off, like the way that society is going to look is going to be a lot different. I don't actually I'm not entirely sure what the future is going to look like in terms of pushing people to have kids when every single industrialized country, as they become more industrialized, have fewer and fewer and fewer children.
Rapid fire questions.
And the answer, my answer was go to church.
Religion, yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
Well, we could talk about religion, but that's not rapid fire at all. Let me ask, this is from the internet. Does body count matter?
Jesus Christ. You're really bringing up the red pill stuff.
Are you avoiding answering?
I mean, it depends on who you are.
Oh,
if you're somebody that doesn't care about it, it doesn't. If you're somebody that does care about it, yeah, it does, of course. Depends on the...
The answer is yes.
Okay. Should porn be banned?
No.
If you could do it, yes. There's no benefit to pornography.
Okay, so Ben is not a free speech absolutist. We've determined that.
It's a waste of time and destructive to the human soul.
I can't believe I'm asking this question. Is OnlyFans empowering or destructive for women?
Jesus. These are rapid fire?
Yeah, just you can't.
I mean, it's probably empowering for the ones that are making a lot of money off it. It probably feels disempowering for others that feel affected by the cultural norms set by women that do OnlyFans. There's my rapid fire answer.
It's destructive to even the ones who are making a lot of money, because when you degrade yourself to being just a set of human body characteristics that other people jack off to, it's bad for you and it's bad for them.
Right. So you're, debasing yourself and, devaluing yourself for money when you do OnlyFans, but when you do any other fucking job that humiliates you, that you fucking hate, that like ruins your fucking health, destroys your fucking knees, that's that's respectable.
Is rap music?
Absolutely.
Have you evolved on this? Or?
Have I evolved on this? So again, I'm going to go to what's the definition of music. My original argument about rap was that music involves the following three elements.
What does free speech have to do with porn? Are you fucking kidding me?
Rhythm, melody, harmony. Rap typically involves maybe one of those. There may be a melody, maybe sometimes. So it depends on the kind of rap. With that said, I could be convinced on this issue. But listen, I'm a classical violinist. I mean, that's how I was raised. I listen to Beethoven and Brahms and Mozart, like in the car with my kids. So is it comparable? Is it in the same category as Beethoven, Brahms, and Mozart? I have a very hard time sticking it in the same category as that.
All right. You're both world-class debaters, even public intellectuals, if I can say that.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
Real hard.
Ben is not a world-class debater, can tell you that much.
I know. You both care about the truth. What is your process of arriving at the truth?
I think it's really important everybody will say that they're objective and that they are nonpartisan. I think it's really important to have mental safeguards for bad opinions. So for instance, like a couple things that I'll ask myself is, for a particular debate that I'm having, like, can I argue convincingly both sides of the debate? If I can't, I won't bother having the debate, because I realize that I'm probably too partisanly dug in if I can't even represent like an opposite argument here. Another question that you might ask yourself is like, well, what would it take to convince you out of a certain position? If you feel very strongly that, Medicare for all is a good system by which to run the United States healthcare, and somebody says, well, what would it take you to convince you otherwise? If you can't even fathom, like, well, what would it take to convince me otherwise? You're probably too dug into a position. So I think if you go through life saying like, well, I try my best to be unbiased, rather than saying I try my best to be aware of my biases, because the latter is more realistic and the former is literally impossible unless you're a computer. So I think having like actual mental practices that you engage in to try to counter some of the biases that you have is more important than trying to pretend that you're free of all biases and then consuming all your media from one source. Yeah.
Ben?
I mean, I agree with a lot of that. I think that the easiest practical guide is read a bunch of different things from a bunch of different sources, and where they cross is probably the set of facts, and then everything else is extrapolated opinion from different premises. That's sort of the short story. So read the New York Times and Breitbart, and they're going to disagree on a lot, but if the core of the story...
And the Daily Wire.
Certainly read the Daily Wire. If you read the Daily Wire and you read the Washington Post, and there's a nexus of the same thing, then you can pretty well guarantee that at least, if we're all blind men feeling the elephant, at least if we're all feeling the trunk, we know that there's a trunk there, right? You may not know what the elephant is.
And if you're feeling frisky, then watch Destiny as well. You've talked about, having a conversation, debating Ben for a long time. What is your favorite thing about Ben Shapiro?
My favorite thing about Ben Shapiro is, at least when we're in election season, he's very critical of his own party. I appreciate that. I feel like Ben generally tries to adhere more to the fact-based arguments than other conservatives that I listen to, which is something that I appreciate, because it's more fun to fight on kind of like the factual grounds of discussing things like foreign policy or whatever, rather than people that only inhabit the idealistic or philosophical grounds because they don't want to learn about any of the facts. So
Son Goku Donate Tellers, is it abnormal for someone to be super big and jacked but still struggle with self-esteem, confidence, and issues? No. Usually the most beautiful people that you'll come across are the most insecure because the people with the most insecurities are going to try the hardest to alleviate those insecurities. So the best looking girls, the best looking dudes who exercise, take care of themselves, make sure they're at a healthy body weight, all that stuff, wear makeup, crap like that. They're usually the most insecure, and that's why they look as good as they do, because they're trying to overcome or make up for those insecurities. So it's not uncommon at all. Thanks for the donation, though, Son Goku.
I appreciate that.
Ben, you've gotten a chance to talk to Destiny now. What do you like about the guy?
A lot of the same sorts of things, but it's really fun to see how you do your process. That is a cool thing. That is a cool thing. And it's a gift to the audience because honestly, doing what we do, so much of what we do is sitting and reading and being behind closed doors and educating yourself and talking with people. But getting to watch you do it in real time is a really cool window into how people think and how people learn. So that's a really neat thing.
Well, gentlemen, this was incredible. It's an honor. Thank you for doing it.
Well, that wasn't too bad. Yeah, I think Ben was right on some of the foreign policy stuff with Iran. Otherwise, yeah, he was totally wrong about January 6th. I was surprised Destiny wasn't sure if Trump should be banned from the ballot. I think he should be. But that was an interesting debate / discussion. Let's see. Lean Beef Patty made some video. Let's see if this is any interest.
Several officers responded to an elementary school for a threats complaint in La Crosse, Wisconsin. A black vehicle with 3 occupants had driven by, yelling profanities at kids on the playground and threatening to harm them. The students reported the incident and they were taken inside.
Oh boy, that is stupid.
The school. An officer then quickly obtained video surveillance, recognizing the suspect vehicle associated with multiple past incidents, including damage to property, theft, and trouble with juvenile complaints. License plate information was shared, and an officer later spotted the vehicle conducting a traffic stop. The driver was soon identified as a 19-year-old male named Hunter, along with his passengers, 18-year-old Alex and 19-year-old Brady. Due to the threats made and the history of these individuals, multiple officers assisted the traffic stop. As they approached the vehicle, the individuals were observed reaching toward the center and making furtive movements.
58, both front passenger, rear passenger are reaching towards the center. I don't know if they're buckling their belts or what. Turn your music down, please. Can you roll your window down, please? Thank you.
How you doing?
Need to see your driver's license, please.
For what?
Complaint over at the school of threats being yelled out at the school kids. Need to see all your driver's license and IDs because it's a complaint from all of you.
Well, these kids look like absolute fucking scumbags, so you know they're guilty. Let me see here. Any good muscle mommy content? And nothing new, unfortunately. Alright.
Don't have one? Do you have your ID on you? Front passenger, I'm talking to you. Do you have your ID on you? Can you roll your window down and talk to that officer?
Why don't you have to turn the car off?
What's your first name?
1 second, let me finish turning the car. Brady.
And a birthday, Brady. Don't reach in your pockets, please. What's your address, Brady?
I know.
You don't know your address?
No.
Let's step out of the car for me. For what? So I'm asking you to step out of the car.
Dude, these kids are gonna get fucked up.
Can I ask what kind of threats were made?
Threats to the kids.
That is not true at all.
Okay, well that's the complaint we've received.
We're literally getting back from Madison. Everything on you. Sorry,
Dude, fuck these kids.
What's your name, sir? Alex. I'm Ryan. Were you guys over by was it Blessed Sacrament a little bit ago?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? Do you know where it is? King and Losey. Were you guys over there? Did you guys like have any interactions with the kid on the playground? None at all? Okay.
I was just coming back from my friend's court date.
Oh, okay. Over at the courthouse?
No, he had court up in Tacoma.
Oh,
We were
okay.
just coming back.
NBA out of pocket moments.
Let me see.
I'm like, I'm tired of getting the taste of it. I want the whole load.
When emotionally, you're like, I'm going to come, and it ain't there. You're trying to, oh yeah, let's go, and it's not there.
Now those guys are going to see their minutes cut, right?
Yeah, and you see,
no, Longley.
Wow.
Got dunked on.
Open your mouth wide and take it.
Making a bump. Russell looking for Ferguson in the corner for three. Bang! Westbrook is out of his cotton picking mind.
You look really good.
What? Cotton picking mind?
Let me put a shirt on for you.
All series long, we've been able to penetrate their bigs, get deep, suck the D in, and then we got spot-up shooters.
I think Ben Simmons is one of, if not the most overrated players in the NBA.
Larry Nance Jr. shooting it at 69%. Nice.
Right down the middle and right down the throat. He shoved it.
Richard would have been a superb broadcaster in the 50s.
Given the
I don't know if I would have been allowed to be a broadcaster in the 50s.
I don't think you should joke about that. People may think you're serious.
I don't want a 6-inch. I want a 12-inch from DeMarcus Cousins.
Look at him. He's going to take it the length of the court, puts it up with the left hand. Oh, my goodness. Who needs James Harden?
To know when to come. So Chris does a great job. Giannis comes from behind and gets a piece of it. Like, it's not just when you come, like it's how hard you come.
I think it's good just taking turns on him and just giving him different looks. And
you have a similar skill set to AD, with the exception of his jumping ability, dunking, and everything else. But
I'm shocked you downplayed Savannah. He said she was all city. And I'd hit out the park, no question, with all due respect.
Double penetration.
Bob, somebody has to come.
God.
That's too deep. That looks like an old jersey.
That's
that might be.
I'm not gonna lie. That looks a little bit like the one that like
that like you like
found that on the street vendor maybe.
Buy one get two free.
I tell you, I took a look at Baines in the shower. He looks like all of Australia.
Oh my goodness. Jordan Clarkson almost came in my lap.
I'm not sure. Is your mom still with us?
My mom alive? Yeah, she's still alive.
Yeah, I didn't.
That's a weird question to ask somebody.
James Harden definitely had a pregame meal, averaging 17 points per game over the last 4.
You have to compete first to win a championship. And hey, where you been? Aren't you healthy? Yeah, you got your hair braided. Well, you need to brush your hair. Okay, well,
He is so crafty. How he uses that body and that big caboose to ward off the defender.
Speaking of coming fast, Jaylen Brown will be doing that, as will Kevin Durant.
I like the trade. I like Zach. I like Fred. Like Dick. The pick.
Hey, watch out for this kid because he can stroke. He is one turnover away from his 10th turnover, which would give him a dubious. But there it is! Oh my goodness! 10 turnovers for James Harden! A quadruple double! Jackhammering those balls in.
I bet you couldn't do that to them big ass women in San Antonio. Oh, not even in San Antonio. He didn't come for the massage. He came for the facial.
Shaq, let's just say that a snake bit your mom right up here. Right in the chest area. Would you be willing to suck the venom out to win the title?
No, but I will with your wife.
Thank you, Shaq.
Teammates, but he has no shame in admitting how much he loves kids.
So y'all thought that was great D. I thought that was just raping him. I think
well, he came down
it could have went either way.
Yeah.
your favorite folks on the call-in shows have been very vocal in their criticism of you for doing this.
You really think I give a flying f*** what the people on the radio call say? Thank you.
That's fucking funny. Those are good.
Back from there and then.
Hunter, why don't you go ahead and step out of the car for me, please? Brady, just stay in the vehicle, okay? Step back this way. Stop right there. Anything on is going to stick me.
So you would have went by Blessed Sacrament there.
Dude, all these kids have a fucking attitude.
I don't know if you knew that or not. Like, I'm not saying that you had any interactions. I'm just saying that that's where. Okay.
My strong suggestion is probably just change the attitude because it's
No, this is bullshit.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. We didn't do anything.
Okay, well, your attitude isn't going to help you.
So we had a complaint. People in this car were yelling at the kids in the playground. That's why you're being stopped right now, okay?
Okay, step over this way, please. He can come right here.
We'd like to hear your side if there was like someone saying something to you first or something like that.
I met you before.
Oh yeah? I'm Sergeant Rossman.
You recognize me?
I don't think so. How do I know you?
I don't know if I know you either. I was just asking if I did.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Tell me what happened today over at the school.
Nothing. We came back from Madison. We're going there for a court date because our friend's going to prison.
Okay.
And we're driving back, and now we're here to go pick up a friend from school.
Okay. And where did you pick him up from?
We haven't picked him up yet. We're about to. He goes to TC.
Was there information that there was a ski mask involved?
Want to pull him out? Yeah. I'll step out for me, guy. What's your name?
Are there any ski masks in the vehicle that you know of?
There's possibly one in my backpack, but I haven't had it on.
So what caused you to go by the school over on Losey?
Because we're coming back from Onalaska.
You want to just face the car and just put your hands up? I'm going to pat you for weapons at this point, okay?
Okay, can I see it? I don't want to search your bag. I just want you to show it to me. I'll have him bring the bag here if that's right.
We're coming this way.
Okay. So what caused you to go all the way down and around and make a loop?
Ma'am, I don't think you understand. We did not yell at any kids.
You put your phone away, please. You can make someone when we're done here, okay?
Okay.
All right.
You're not answering my question. If you're coming to pick up
it's
him...
irrelevant.
Am I going back to jail?
I don't think so.
It is relevant.
We
okay?
did not make any threats to any children. Why would we yell at a bunch of kids saying we're going to kill them?
That's a good question. That's a very good question.
One of two things happen. You're going to leave here no matter what, okay? You're either going to get nothing, and we'll see you later, or you're going to get probably a ticket, okay? Depending on the investigation.
Like, I'm trying to stay out.
Could you just... Yeah, that's cool.
You look like my dentist.
Ever since the eye surgery, Frank looks like the cartoon animation of when someone gets hit in the head and the ring of stars of dizziness appears over their head after.
Yeah, he looks constantly confused and dizzy. That was one of the worst decisions he's ever made in his entire life. If not the worst. Again, $30,000 to fuck your face up and become cross-eyed. That is crazy. Like, he could have gotten a good new car. Like, fucking maybe a nicer house. I don't know. Just save that fucking money up for a rainy day. Like, oh my god. Just such a dumb idea. Thanks for the donation though, Eric.
That's why I recognize you. I swear.
No, definitely not a dentist. So,
I'm trying to stay out of.
Did you yell out the window anything?
No, I'm driving.
Okay. Did your passengers yell out the window anything?
No.
They yelled nothing.
No.
Did you drive down Losey? Did you drive down 24th?
I don't know. We've been driving all day.
Did you drive down?
These kids are
you would
fucking
know.
weird.
We probably have, yes.
Did you go down 24th Street or Losey Boulevard?
Yes.
But you know what I'm saying? If something was yelled, let's just get to that so we don't have to spend here for an hour while an investigation is conducted over there.
We got the call today, worried about kids and kids' safety.
You know what I'm saying? So if someone did yell something, just let's have out with it right now.
I didn't yell anything.
Did anybody in the car yell anything?
Yes, what?
I assume
Which
so.
One? Which one?
Losey for sure.
Okay. Did you turn on to 24th Street?
Where's that?
Something happened. I wasn't there. We got other officers at the school reviewing all the video. Tell me what happened, man.
Hang tight with Officer Scray here.
It's the
Is that
one
the
street.
School?
Yep, on the other side of the school.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're coming here to get him, what would cause you to go by the school?
Well, first we're going to our friend's Thomas, and then we went to Quick Trip to get more gas, and then we came back and we're coming here.
Where'd you stop for gas at?
Basically, the only thing that happened was We drove by and there was a bunch of kids playing football in the road.
Yeah.
And one kid threw the ball to him and he dropped it. And we said he's bad at football. That's all that happened.
The kid said he's bad at football?
No, we said he was bad.
You said the kid was
We
bad
did
at
not
football.
threaten no one or anything.
Okay.
That's literally all we said. You're bad at football.
So you went way out on Mormon Cooley Road, got gas.
And then we're coming back this way.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere. We're not getting any cooperation either. So they did admit to, one of them admitted that they did drive by there though.
Did anybody yell anything out the windows that would made them think that somebody was yelling
They did not yell any threats. We don't got time for that.
Did you yell out the windows?
No.
They claim not to know where Blessed Sacrament was, but they gave me the route, so it took them right there. So we do have them there.
Well, their stories aren't lining up, so that's not good for them.
No.
I'm driving. I can't be doing that shit.
People can yell and still drive.
So we went, turned around, and we went back the way we came. And they were all just around the teacher saying whatever they said. I don't know.
Okay.
That one kid there is a fucking scumbag. The fucking kid vaping.
Do you know who I am? Probably not.
Nope.
Okay. I've been trying to stay out of shit for so long. I do not need this.
Okay. Well, here we are.
I know, and I'm not trying to be here, and I'm not trying to be rude, but it's frustrating.
Yeah, and you can get as frustrated as possible, but we have as much as you want, but we have a job to do. We received a complaint, and they had to take all these kids into the school because of the threats that were made.
And I'm not even mad at you guys. I'm just mad at whoever called the police saying that we're trying to
school officials.
Kids.
School officials.
Well, whoever's saying we're making threats, saying we're trying to kill them is.
And you made no statements, no yelling, no nothing out.
That is outrageous, dude. Do
you have any weapons in the car?
No, I don't. I'm not allowed to have any.
It was also discovered Hunter was currently out on 4 bonds and prohibited from committing any additional crimes while under bond.
Hunter is out on 4 bonds, misdemeanors, and no firearms is one of the conditions, and no drugs.
Are you on probation? You're just on bond, no probation?
No guns or anything in the car, nothing that's going to look like a gun, no BB guns or anything crazy like that.
I got rid of all my guns after I arrested the last time.
Okay.
Who yelled out the window at the kid?
I don't know. I was playing music.
Were you sitting there in the same spot you were, in the back seat behind the driver?
Yeah.
Was there a 4th person in the car, Brady?
No.
You didn't drop anybody off from that time until we...
I used to dressed up today.
I'm always
It always looks good, man.
No, there's no nothing.
You remember me when I stopped you and Jade? Yeah. Yeah, you do, don't you?
You didn't say you're gonna get a gun, or you ain't gonna shoot him, or something like that?
No, I just graduated high school. That's weird.
Sure.
He said they made no statements, no threats, no yelling, no nothing.
That's what he said too. But he did say that they come back from Toma. He does have a black mask in his thing, but he denies having it on.
And all that you said to the kid was bad at football?
Might have said you suck at football.
You suck at football.
Now we're getting someone.
So you guys were driving past the school, kid dropped a football, you yell out the window, hey man, you suck at football. And then what happened?
We drove away.
Hey, Terry, here you go.
Hang on a minute, go a little bit slower, those statements. 95 times 3. Okay.
Yeah, pause by D.
They said it was all 3 of them, and he said these were the 3 that were in the car that went around.
Okay, all right, if you're comfortable, it's the 95.
95?
Yep.
Hunter, I need you to go ahead and put your hands behind your back for me.
I'm placed under arrest now based on Officer Roden's request.
No, you're being placed under arrest for disorderly conduct and bail jumping.
Jeez. Oh my god. This guy's out on 4 fucking bonds, and then he gets arrested for this.
Well, based on some statements made by the complainants, they must have described you good enough where she's comfortable arresting you. Hold on, what's going on with this wrist here, partner? Is it broken or anything? Actually, just let's hold off on this then. You're under arrest, okay? We're not gonna put you in cuffs though. Do you understand that? Yeah. Okay. So I'm not gonna mess your wrist up anymore.
Oh, hey, you stand up though. We gotta just put the handcuffs on you. Put your head behind your back, please.
Walk right back to my skirt. Let me slide in there.
Hope they feel good about themselves. Harassing me to it.
So no way I can't just get like a ticket or something.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I'm on bond right now, and if I go back, I had court like 2 weeks ago, and they said that if I get arrested again, my charges are gonna be. They're trying to get it revoked right now.
If you had to choose, would you rather live the rest of your life in the body of Timothy Chalamet or the body of the Incredible Hulk?
Timothy Chalamet. Who the hell is Timothy Chalamet? Ugh. Yikes. I'd rather live in the body of the Incredible Hulk. Yeah, that's not something I can deal with, being that skinny. Thanks for the donation though, nigga.
But they said I have a chance to like get out of all trouble for the steak plate.
All right, well, I tell you what. Let me go talk to Officer Roden, and I'll get you your answers in a little bit, okay?
I don't care. Give me as much steak as I want.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to stay out of jail.
Okay. She spoke with the officer on the scene. Okay. She said she got probable cause. I'm not going to sit and have her explain it to me right now. Okay. She's a veteran officer. So where'd that mask go? Okay. Well, I'm going to take that as evidence, though. You need to get out, sir? I thought we were blocking you.
Student center.
All right. You're good to go.
Yeah. Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Just grab a seat for me, and then we'll talk to Officer Rowan and see what we got going on, okay?
Upon searching Alex's backpack, several bullets and masks were found, but no.
Oh, damn. He probably can't be in possession of any ammunition.
No firearms were located. One of the black ski masks had writing that said, "No face, no case. F your homie, dead ass."
Hey, be careful.
Oh my god.
There's a lot of them.
What a great fucking ski mask to have when you have, like, you're out on bond. Oh my god.
Wait, when you pulled over me and Jade, were you just waiting for us?
What an idiot.
No, I was actually on my way home. Someone saw the vehicle and we knew we had to talk to you guys. And I was the closest one.
Anything sharp in there? It might poke me, stick me, anything like that?
Hunter, when it gets about time when we have to move your vehicle, will you give us permission to legally
This is
park
illegal,
it?
bro. I didn't do anything.
Will you give us permission?
Why am I being under arrest?
I advise you, you're under arrest for disorderly
When
conduct.
was I being disorderly?
Okay.
When?
Over at the school, I explained it to you.
How?
Okay.
How was I being disorderly?
Yelling profanities and threats.
When did I yell? Where is the proof of me yelling at people?
It's from multiple kids.
Anyway.
Yeah, so if there's no video evidence and they're going entirely on witness testimony, it's pretty easy to disqualify the validity of witness testimony, especially when they're stupid kids.
Get like a sig bond out here because I talked to an officer a while ago and apparently I guess you guys can do that.
It depends on what the alleged offense is.
Unfortunately for you. Unfortunately, it's the kids that had to hear this.
I didn't yell.
Dude, all these kids are fucking troublemakers. This guy's out on 4 bonds. The other guy was arrested, and I think he has a bond. And then that other kid's just a clear fucking scumbag.
At any f***ing kids.
When it comes to time to move your vehicle, will you give us permission to move it?
No.
Okay.
You might be going. I don't know. I'm just shooting
I don't
shit
know,
with
if you try to just do whatever you can and not get me in jail, I guess.
I get you. Thing number 2, Alex, there's a bunch of rounds in your bag.
Yeah, I know. I guess I knew that was in there. There's no gun though.
There's not gonna be a gun in the car. Okay. All right, sit tight.
If you just sit down and then slide your feet in there.
Why would there be fucking ammunition in his bag? Like, why is he even... It's so stupid. Aaron P., the GOAT, donated $2. This guy is so dumb. Even when on phone to the Indian scammer, he doesn't realize what's happening.
I think Fox Mulder got it right when he said...
Watch me get hacked and how I recovered Facebook page.
Trust no one. There's a lot of people out there that prey on other people. And I'm not the kind of person...
An Indian scammer once got me. They got my some of my banking information. I just woke up, and when I wake up like from a long sleep, I'm like kind of stupid for a little bit, and everybody who works at the banks, like they're all Indian. So some Indian guy calls me on the phone, sounds like he's from my bank, and he said that somebody just used my card without my authorization. And I'm like, oh crap. And then I gave him some of my info, and then I realized he asked me something weird. He asked me to go to the store where apparently it happened. I'm like, why would I have to go to the store? And then I'm like, wait, do you actually work for the bank? And then he hangs up on me, and I'm like, oh, fuck. So then I had to call my bank real quick, tell them to freeze my card, and then I had to order a new fucking card.
Person that normally falls for scam.
We'll react to this in a bit. Thanks for that donation, though, Aaron.
All right. You good, Brady? You want the window down a little bit?
No, but what's happening? What am I doing?
Well, we're going to head over here. I'm going to collaborate with my partner.
I'm not trying to go to jail for the first time for this bullshit.
You never been to jail before?
For the first time.
Worst ticket I ever got was an underage drinking. You guys got everything in this.
Wow, the fucking scumbag fucking Vapor is the only one in their group that hasn't actually been criminally charged with anything.
It was, they yelled out, and they said all three of them were yelling, "Suck my dick, f*** you, I'm going to kill you." They circled around the school again, "I'm going to kill you, f*** you."
Oh, good eyes spotting this juke.
Well, you know, when you
Right
sit
place,
in an
right
office
time.
all day, I kind of got to flex once in a while. So.
All right, Alex, so here's kind of the deal right now. So we're waiting on a canine for the vehicle because of kind of what happened.
Dog taking a pee.
I spoke to Tim Brunke. He said due to evidence of the offense, there's enough there because of the bullets and the threats to kill.
Okay.
So we're going to search it.
Oh boy.
Thanks, Murray. Good job, buddy. Good job. Good job. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're a good dog. You're a good dog. Everything else is good, not Alaska?
No.
Oh,
It's
no.
in service week, so.
Oh, sure.
Absolute nightmare.
Yep.
The vehicle search yielded no weapons or other contraband, but a false ID was found in Hunter's wallet, along with half a bottle of tequila under the passenger seat.
Just a bottle of Patron, Terry.
Hunter's
Just-
got false ID, so he can...
a few days ago for ID, so that would make sense.
Under that seat?
The passenger seat.
Okay.
What they're observing on the camera and what they're picking up from school staff was the three of you had driven by the school and all three individuals had yelled something out of the window, something to the effect of, "I'll kill you," or something like that.
We're locking them.
Okay.
Just based on history and the violent history that
Yeah,
we've had.
the violent history that we've had, the ongoing complaints, the ongoing complaints.
And it's actually increasing from used to be damaging cars with a brick or something at night.
Yeah.
All those to shooting BB guns now and more weapons and gun calls. It just they keep.
What did they have at the school?
They drove by and they said all three were yelling out, "Suck my dick, f*** you, I'm going to kill you." They circled around the school again.
Why were they doing this when they're out on bond?
And then they yelled out again, "I'm going to kill you and f*** you."
Yeah, that would definitely scare.
We'll just go
Off the top
DC
of my
and
head.
then the DA can up it if they want to.
Dude,
Find a lot of drugs.
If they actually did that, that is insane when they're fucking out on bond.
No, we didn't find any.
Damn, so how did the dog hit?
The dog didn't hit.
So why'd you search my vehicle?
It was searched for evidence of the offense of the threats to kill with the ammunition in your buddy's backpack.
Oh. What did they say about me? I was yelling that I was gonna kill them? That's what was said?
That was, yeah.
They're probably going to get off if they might have already been charged. Because, like, if this goes to court, like, a lawyer can easily just try to disprove the validity of the witness, you know, especially them being stupid kids. Aaron P., the GOAT, donated $2. Keep stream up. This my shit. All the girls stomp your feet like this. Course, few times of being around that track. So it's not just gonna happen like that, cause I ain't no hollaback girl. I ain't no hollaback girl. Alright, well, I'll keep the stream up for you. Thanks for that donation, Aaron P. the GOAT.
Yelled.
It was. Dude, this is gonna be so fun in court. You guys are gonna look stupid.
I'm sorry that you think it's funny, because you have...
What's funny? I said you guys are gonna look stupid.
Oh, okay.
I love when they're gonna show the video of me yelling at them, man. And I'm being sarcastic, by the way.
Brady, how we doing back here?
It still sucks.
With our investigation here, we've got a disturbance was definitely created, and some kids got pretty scared with some grown adult men yelling stuff out the window at them. It's not something that we take lightly when it comes to this kind of stuff. The charge is disorderly conduct. We'll be going to jail with that charge, all right?
What?
Yeah.
How am I going to jail for that?
You can't just go spouting off, you know, whatever you want. Scaring these little kids. Imagine if you're a little kid and you had a car with full-grown adult men yelling stuff that they're gonna whatever. Scared the heck out of these kids, you know what I mean? Yep, just make sure you behave through the booking process. You know, they gotta take your fingerprints and your photo and this and that.
Is this gonna be like the Walmart mugshots?
I don't know anything about the Walmart thing.
Well, they just make you stand up against the wall and smile at the camera.
Oh, yeah.
At the jail, Hunter persisted in being a Class A smartass and wouldn't take the incident seriously.
Oh no, what citation am I getting?
False ID and...
False ID?
Yeah.
How's that false ID?
ID in your wallet. It's not yours.
Throwing the book at me, aren't you?
Doing my job.
Your job is harassing people?
Well, if you feel this is harassment...
I do, I honestly do.
Okay. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Nah.
It's not anything else. Alright, brother. We'll grab a seat.
Where, oh where can I park my little car? Brady, one leg out, stand up. You said this is your first time here?
Yeah.
Daddy, what's up? Actually, sit over here on this little chair on the big chair. Thank you, sir.
I've been through this whole process. It's not fun, and it's fucking long and boring.
Nothing, I'm tired of this Miley Cyrus motherfucker right here.
Have a seat.
Yes, I am.
Wait.
Zeros, yeah.
They gave him the smallest shoes ever.
What the? Give him the biggest shoe.
And I need your opinion on what? Nothing, so be quiet. Last time I think you get you in a little more trouble. Alright, come on, Douglas. I'm gonna explain it to you one more time. I have to ask you serious questions. Either you answer yes or no, we'll be done. We'll just take you back to the cell, and you can sit for a few days and think about it again. Your choice.
As a result, Hunter was rewarded with felony making terrorist threats, party to a crime, misdemeanor counts of disorderly conduct, party to a crime, and bail jumping ×2. He was also cited $780 for underage drinking and the false ID. Alex and Brady earned themselves felony making terrorist threats and misdemeanor disorderly conduct.
So did they actually get charged?
Hunter and Alex's cash bonds were set at $5,000 and $2,500, while Brady was released on a $5,000 signature bond. But it seems that didn't stop them. A few months later, they were all arrested again on felony charges, including identity theft and retail theft. Want a deeper look?
Dude, these kids are stupid as shit. That's fucking hilarious. So they're literally, all of them, except for the one fucking vaping scumbag, this guy, they were all out on bond and shit. And then they went to a fucking school and fucking threatened to kill kids? It's like fucking nuts.
Scams, but some of you may know that.
I live on the second floor of Apt and I walk around in underwear. I wish I lived up higher cause floor 2 seems weird like that.
Well, I'm on the top floor of my apartment. I don't know, maybe you'll get lucky and there's gonna be a vacancy. Thanks for the donation, non-wib.
Recently, earlier this month, I had my Facebook account hacked, and the way they did it was very tricky. And I'm gonna show you throughout this video how they did it. I've actually got real-time video of them doing it the moment when I was hacked, and how I found out and what I did to get my account back. So let's just get right into it. I was actually contacted by a page that represent Lewis House Management, and I had never heard of Lewis before, so I had to go look him up, and it turns out that he's got quite a following over on YouTube. He does podcasts and talks about, you know, inspirational stories, stuff like that, success, that kind of thing. And I hadn't heard of him before. And then I talked to one of my good friends, Craig, and I told him about it. And he said, oh yeah, I know who he is. That would be amazing if you could get on his show. And initially I thought, like, why would he want to interview me? And then, of course, I thought, well, why are you putting yourself down, Chris? I mean, you've actually got a story to tell, so that might be a good opportunity. The email that I got was participating in a podcast with Lewis and also getting $3,000 compensation. Lord knows that I could use that money right now. It would really help me out. But at the same time, I would have been okay with doing the podcast even without compensation. I've never been compensated for a podcast before, so I thought this was a little bit weird, but he is a way bigger YouTuber, so I figured not that big of a deal. I wasn't suspicious in any way, and I thought, why not? I can do a podcast. That would be cool. And my main motivation was, you had to get the story out about how I started my channel and everything. But also, for those of you that don't know, I'm working on a movie, A44, and it would be a perfect opportunity to promote that movie. So I said, yeah, I would do this. Let me go through and show you some of the email exchanges that we had. Okay, here is the first email I got from this was back on January 4th, and it says Lewis House. And the email is mgmtlewishousepodcast@gmail.com. I didn't see anything suspicious at this point, and it is to the Vegan Zombie, me, and it's the management team. And we're happy to invite you to participate in our online podcast event.
Lewis House. So
every human being.
If you go to this guy's page, sometimes they have an email. It's lewishouse.com. That might have an email link. Oh, it's some fucking stupid ClickFunnels horse shit. Okay. So there's not any obvious way to verify the email. Text Lewis, mycommunity.com Lewis. Yeah. So there's no obvious way to find out his email.
Which is hosted by Lewis. In the podcast session, we will discuss the ups and downs of life struggles in life and the best thing about your passion, the captivity, narratives spun by authors and writers, the way of success that you pursued, the remarkable journey of entrepreneurship, human rights, and social issues, including socialism. You can also talk about your lifestyle. I thought that was kind of weird, socialism. I've never talked about socialism on my channel, so I did think that that was a little bit weird, but I didn't think that this was a scam in any way at this point. Thoughts and person.
Okay. If the email isn't personalized, it looks like they're making this is just a click and paste email that they send out to 1 billion people, and they're trying to cover like different people with either different interests and different careers. Things about your passion, captivating narratives spun by authors and writers. That's weird. The way of success that you pursued. I mean, he has a small YouTube channel. Like, again, it's not personal to him. So, remarkable journey of entrepreneurship. Again, human rights. He's a vegan activist channel. Human rights. And socialism. I would have thought this was bullshit already.
We have selected our podcast platform as Facebook, and it will be live on Facebook pages. We are pleased to offer $3,000 compensation for your participation in the podcast episode. We are sure that you have something special to share with our audience and don't want to miss out on this opportunity, so please join us as a guest speaker on this unique podcast. We believe that such conversations are essential and offer the opportunity to be enlightening, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, so they wanted me on their podcast. Best regards, Lewis Management. So then I wrote back to him the next day and I said, when are you planning to do the podcast? Pretty simple. The event will be held January 15th till January 25th, every day, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard.
Yeah, again, so he gets a really weird reply. So, okay, when will this podcast be hosted? Between January 15th and January 25. Like, this guy would have a date that he could book.
Standard time, let me know which date works for you. And then I said, okay, is this like a live Facebook interview type podcast? I'm still a little confused. What exactly are we doing? Yep, this is a Facebook online event, and all the artists will be joining us through their respective Facebook pages. So right there, I'm kind of even more confused. I'm like, is this just between me and Lewis, or is this going to be like a big event where there's going to be many different speakers. So then he writes back and says, hi there, hope you're well. You lived a good life last year, but this year I hope you live your best life. You deserve it. Just want to follow up with you because I didn't respond. I wasn't sure yet. Yes, I'm interested in taking part in this live stream. So I made a commitment. I'm really bad at making commitments, but I made the commitment for January 16th. That sounds good. I just wanted to get it done and over with.
Sure, we lock 16 the for you. That's a good sign.
January 15th was a holiday, so I opted for January 16th. And then I said, what platform do you use to broadcast on? Will I join that or do I need to set up? I'm still a little confused, you know? So he writes back and says, sure, we will lock in the 16th for you. This is a Facebook online event and all the artists will be joining us through their respective Facebook pages. So now I'm like, okay, so it is going to be many other people. I would like to schedule a Zoom call with you to discuss the logistics and technical requirement of this event. This will help us ensure that everything runs smooth. So basically they wanted to do a preliminary interview with me. So I had to do like a virtual meeting. So, okay, I could do a Zoom tomorrow afternoon. Does 2 or 3 work for you? That was sent on my end at 5:53.
You know what? Somebody tried a similar thing with James Aspie. He was telling me about it. Some people were posing as managers of Fresh and Fit, and they tried to get him to share info on his phone. So there's a number of scams like this where people pose as big social media influencers and then try to scam people into giving personal information away.
In the morning, because I work throughout the night. It says, what time zone are you in? And I said Eastern Standard Time. And he says 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time works for me. I'll send you the link kindly to join through laptop. I think I initially wrote the call that I could do it at 2 or 3. I did at 12 a.m. So when I said tomorrow, I meant that later that day. So we got that kind of confused at first. And I'm on here ready to go. And I said, I'm ready when you are. And he says, okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow. So right there was a misunderstanding, but I wanted to remain professional. I definitely didn't want to argue. I thought we were on today, but I can do tomorrow. And he said, yeah, you said earlier in the day, 2 p.m. works Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. So I said, yes. Initially, I meant today for a Zoom meeting. And I said, yes, I am here and ready to go. And then he says, I'm inviting you to a schedule a Zoom meeting topic. And he gives me the link and all that stuff. This is the link he gave me right here. And as I'm looking at it right now, I'm wondering if this did anything to my computer, if he's still able to get on my computer. But this was a meeting room. This was a web Zoom. I don't even know what this thing is for this link. I don't know how he got on here. I allowed him to come on here. There was a meeting ID and a password that I put on here. Now, right now, I got to let you know, I was expecting to talk to Lewis. It says Lewis Howes right here. There's also a picture of him. I watched a few of Lewis's videos, so I knew what he sounded like. And right off the bat, this guy had an Indian accent. So I was kind of surprised at first.
Yeah, dude, clear scam. How did it go any further?
It wasn't Lewis, but I wasn't really suspicious yet because I just figured Lewis is a busy guy. He's got a way bigger platform than I do, and he probably hired a team to coordinate these things for him. So I didn't think there was anything suspicious at this point. But what I did do, and it wasn't out of suspicion, it was out of just wanting to know what I was doing so I could go back and look at everything I was doing. I started screen recording what this guy was telling me to do on my Facebook page. So basically, he had me go through the Facebook page, and he was kind of tricking me. He was saying one thing as we were doing another thing. So basically, he was having me send out an email to whoever had the email link, and it gave them managerial permission on my Vegan Zombie Facebook business page. And it gave that whoever had this link a managerial role. And he also was making me give away my power. So basically, anybody that had this link could come in and basically kick me right out of my own page. So I didn't realize what he was doing. I thought we were getting set up for something. And even after I logged off on this call, I didn't think anything of it until later on that day. And let's just get right into it. Let me show you exactly how it went down. And I'll show you the screen recording of this happening in real time.
Your name over there on the left side on top.
Right. Do I click that?
On the left. On top, people.
People right here?
To the left. No, left side. Right on top. Users, people.
Okay.
Yeah, now you are on a right spot over here. You can see yourself over there, and your IG is connected. You can see Lightsaber is also there. So there is no online event right now because you've never done that before. Invite yourself by clicking on invite people option. There is a invite.
Literally says people with access to the Vegan Zombie business account. Edit, remove, edit people's access here. This is, that's bizarre that he got fooled like this.
People button on the right side. There is a blue button.
Reaching me on.
So he literally just let this guy get access to his fucking account. Dude, that's bizarre.
I had several strangers log on and become part of my page, which prompted me to be a little bit concerned. But at the same time, I wasn't sure if this was just like other people that are going to be joining the podcast. I didn't know how this worked at this point yet. I ended up getting on the phone with one of my good friends, and she actually Googled this kind of thing, and she found the exact same scam came up, offering a certain amount of money to be on a podcast and then losing control of your Facebook page. And this was exactly the case that happened to me. So I couldn't get home fast enough. And as soon as I got home, sure enough, I went and got on my computer and tried to get into my Facebook page, which I was able to do. And I saw other people in there that I didn't recognize, and I tried to delete them, and I had no permissions to do that. In fact, I had very limited permissions to do anything on there. So from that moment on, I started trying to find out how to report this to Facebook, and I came to the realization after not too long, I spent so many hours and hours and hours, days actually, trying to reach Facebook. Facebook is horrible for this. And if this has happened to you, you probably know what I mean. Able to get back in to see it. So they blocked me. I couldn't even get back into the business suite. But then I had the idea to go back to that email that they got into my site in the first place, the email that I ended up creating with the managerial position. So I got back in there and I was able to see things, but I still was not able to do anything. They put themselves with the most power there. So they had all the permission can to Facebook. I even did copyright claims, which they actually just wrote back to me today saying, this isn't the page to do this on. You can get your page taken away for this. And we can't even refer you to anybody. Like, Facebook is horrible. There's no like fail safe that if your account gets taken away because you are the owner, for you to like press a button and get, reset it and get all that back. And it's horrible, for people that got scammed like I did. And working. And I did notice that I was linked up on my Instagram. My Instagram was also linked through Meta on my Facebook. And I was afraid that maybe they were going to be able to go in and take over my Instagram account as well for the Vegan Zombie. And so I logged in there a couple times and nothing seemed displaced or anything like that. So I didn't really think too much of it. And when I went into the business permissions, which you already saw where we went to with the online events and all that stuff, I never saw anything with any Instagram account in there. So I'm like, okay, so my Instagram account's not on there. So I know I'm hooked up. I know I'm linked on Instagram, but there's really nothing they can do because I'm not showing up. So they can't like delete me or do anything like that. So this went on for a few days and no help.
I'm going to Thailand to fuck some Thai pussy and explore temples. I'm pumping iron hard as I can, so the Thai pussies will be wet when they see my juicy gains. I'm running test. Do you think I'll get in trouble if I try to bring it with me on the plane?
If you don't have a prescription for it, then yes, you are probably going to run into trouble. You can get testosterone over the counter in Thailand, though. So, thanks for the donation, though, Chest Pump. Good luck with getting Thai pussy.
From Facebook whatsoever. And then one night, late at night, I just had an idea. And I decided to go on my Instagram account again. And I was hooked up to the Meta Facebook. And I had never logged in with my Instagram account before, so I never showed up. But since I linked the accounts, somehow I was an admin of my own account. So what I did was I went on my computer, I logged into Instagram, and then I went to the business suite of the Meta Business Suite, and I logged in there, and I was in. And the first thing I tried to do was see if I could delete these people. And I could. So I deleted all of them. Boom, remove. And then the in-stream and the online ads, events, I wasn't sure if that was me or them or whatever, but I got rid of all of them. Boom, remove, boom, remove, boom, remove. Reinstated my original account, gave myself all my permissions again. And now I'm freaked out because I'm thinking now they're going to find out that I did this and they're going to come back in. I don't know too much about the computers. I know the very basics and what I learned over the last few days of going over everything I could do to try to figure this out on my own. And I was ready for them to come back in and I'd have to like delete them as soon as they came back in. I was able to delete all of their videos and they had a bunch of videos that were scheduled to go up. And I deleted all of those. I eventually came to the conclusion that so far it looks like I have my page back and I ended up outsmarting these hackers. But I'm still kind of on the fence if anybody has that link, if they could still get back in and hack my account again. I don't know. I'm kind of hesitant about that. And I looked everywhere to no avail. I could not find anything on Facebook that actually worked to be able to cancel an invitation like the email that I sent out. There should be a way to cancel this. And when I Googled it, I found a couple different articles on it, but nothing actually worked for me to be able to cancel that link so nobody else can use it. So that's what I ended up doing to get my account back. I know it's very frustrating, especially when you have a large account, a verified account, and it's your business, you know? I wasn't able to really concentrate on any other work because this was the only thing going through my mind, that somebody had control and they were impersonating me, and how much damage they could do. And I wasn't able to get any other work done those few days that they had my account. And if I didn't figure this out, they probably still have my account, because Facebook still has done nothing about it, and they never got back to any of my concerns about it. So that's how I got my account back. If this can help anybody else out, I know there's a lot of videos out there of people that got hacked and scammed this way, and I know a lot of people every single day are out.
Dude, that's fucking weird that he was so airheaded to, like, have some random fucking Indian dude fucking tell him to do this weird shit on his fucking Facebook page. Well, at least he got his Facebook back. Dodo donated $2. Let me see. We gave Ron DeSantis a participation trophy for his election effort. We're so proud of him.
What? Nothing's going to stop us.
Real quick, before we get started, thank you, everyone. Governor DeSantis, I want to present to you this participation trophy. Now, it's probably not going to win the election, right? But we're proud of you for trying. There you go. No, I mean, sorry, buddy. He's special, he's unique, and he's our little snowflake. Thank you. Here you go. Do you want the award?
Dude, they got him. Good data. You should watch the whole video. Let me see. That's fucking good, dude.
Welcome back. We've been discussing those spending talks on Capitol Hill this morning, and Steve Ratner is here with more on that. All right, let's talk about your charts. Let's start with the first one right behind you there. Slim majority, slow Congress. We've talked about how historically unproductive this Congress has been. What are you looking at there on the chart?
Yeah. So you guys have been talking about it, so I thought I'd bring some charts and some numbers to put some facts behind it. So the Republicans have the smallest majority, actually, I think, in history at the moment. They have just 2 seats. They started with 4. You had George Santos leave. You had Kevin McCarthy leave. They're down to just 2 seats. And the consequence of that is that they have passed the fewest number of bills in modern history in their first year. They've passed just 24 bills, and you can see what went on here in the past. It's a dramatic drop-off. But, you know, it always wasn't thus, and this gets back a little bit to what Joe was talking about the debt and the deficit, because back in 99 and 2000, they also had a small majority. But you can see over here that they actually passed a lot of legislation, and as Joe said, they dealt with the debt. We had a surplus. We got a lot of legislation passed. Congress could function. But it's really a problem within the Republican Party because they can't function. Mike Johnson does not have control over that far right, as we're going to talk about further in a minute. And so it's all stalled. And it's so ironic because the Senate was supposed to be the ones who were slow, and the House was supposed to be the ones who were fast. And the Senate's job, as it was famously said, was to cool the hot tea of the House. Now it's the other way around. Legislation like this deal that James Lankford is working on with the Democrats is coming out of the Senate, and the House is sitting there essentially doing almost nothing.
So as we move to your next chart, Steve, it's illustrative of what you're talking about here, which is the inability to get anything done, including a budget, which used to be not such a difficult task. But now we live moment to moment, almost month to month, trying to pass these emergency budgets to avoid government shutdowns.
Yeah, when the Republicans took over the House, they said regular order. We're going to have a budget. The government's fiscal year starts on October 1. We're going to be ready to go with a real budget. Here we are now in the middle of January. There's no budget. There are a bunch of continuing resolutions. There was one passed last night to avert a government shutdown tonight. That's how close it came. It was only passed because the Democrats supported it. Johnson barely got one above a majority of his caucus. Half of his caucus voted against this deal. But it's a stopgap measure, as you pointed out, and it takes us to about the 1st of March. And between now and then, they have to deal with it. So let's talk about what's at stake there. So Biden originally proposed $67 billion of more spending for the current fiscal year. Kevin McCarthy made a deal with him before he was kicked out that essentially federal spending would not go up. Chuck Schumer just kind of renegotiated that deal with Mike Johnson. And while the numbers sort of are the same, in fact, Mike Johnson got one thing that's important. He got, to him anyway, he got a further cut in IRS spending from $10 billion to $20 billion. Now, the irony of this is...
Well, the stupid thing is you're going to end up getting less revenue.
Cutting IRS spending actually increases the deficit, as this chart shows.
Yeah, it's stupid, and they're doing that intentionally.
Because the government collects more than $1 from taxpayers who are not filing their taxes properly for every dollar we spend on more IRS agents to do those audits. And so the Republicans who claim they want to cut the deficit actually are increasing it because they're trying to give Americans more loopholes to not pay taxes. Now, the other issue that Johnson is going to face is the fact that his far-right caucus wants $58 billion of spending cuts. It is not at all clear that they will vote for any deal that Johnson makes. And once again, he's going to have to go to the Democrats to pass this thing, if and when we ever get to it, because of the immigration issue, which we'll get to in a second. He's going to have to go to the Democrats, and it'll be interesting to see how all that unfolds. And, of course, the question is, how long does Johnson survive with a caucus that doesn't even support him when he makes a deal?
So let's slide along the wall to that next.
Mike Johnson's a piece of fucking shit. I hope that guy croaks.
Chart on immigration. This is the question that's being debated as we speak in the Congress right now. The Senate says they're close to a deal, a bipartisan deal. The House won't take a good deal, it appears, because they're getting pressure from Donald Trump not to give Joe Biden a win. But let's talk about the immigration crisis and what it looks like right now in your chart.
Sure. So just as a reminder, yeah, we have had a big surge in what are called encounters at the border. It's up to about 2.6 million a year. This chart is in months, but it's about 2.6 million a year. But let's just be clear. These are not people who are sneaking across the border and disappearing into America to become illegal immigrants. These are people, as I'll talk about in just 1 second, who actually are in the hands of our Customs and Border Patrol and are going through the system. This group down here at the bottom are what are called the gotaways, the ones who actually do sneak across the border and disappear into our system. But the consequence of that is that this black line, almost 90% of the people who...
This is fucking insanity if this were to be signed into law. Shockingly, this is Ron DeSantis' response to the FLGOP's bill.
Let me see. Florida Republicans are now pushing legislation to use taxpayer dollars to pay for Trump's illegal bills. One of them said they think taxpayers should be forced to pay for this because having a Floridian in the White House is good for our state. That would be insane. And let me see. This is Ron DeSantis' response to the FIGOP bill. Some Florida Republicans want taxpayers to pay Trump's legal bills, but not the Florida Republican who wields the veto pen. Okay, well, hopefully, so at least Ron DeSantis says he won't support it, even though he's endorsing Trump. Thanks for the donation, though, Ben.
Try to cross our border end up in the hands of Customs and Border Patrol.
Wow.
So it's not an issue of a wall of people sneaking across and disappearing. This number has actually come down very substantially for some complicated reasons that I'm going to spare you. And most of these people are in our hands. So what happens to them? So last year, 2.6 million of them ended up in the hands of Customs and Border Patrol, as you can see here, either by coming across through a port of entry or coming across somewhere else. And many of them just turn themselves into Border Patrol because they want to go through the system. They're going to claim asylum. Here's the problem. The problem is they end up in our court system. 1.5 million of them came across the border. They were apprehended. They were processed. And they were given what's called a notice to appear before an immigration court and begin their hearings. But it hasn't happened. It's because we have this huge backlog. Why do we have this huge backlog? Because Congress has not funded, ironically, and this is why we need this bill, Congress has not funded the whole immigration court system sufficiently to process all these folks. The other thing most people probably don't know is that 850,000 of them actually left. Some of them voluntarily, some of them were sent back. But out of the 2.6 million of them, ended at 850,000 just went back. 300,000 got what's called parole, which is a humanitarian.
See, Dodo Night Tellers, I know it's late and you probably want a game soon, but maybe you can watch this. Remember Jenk and Ben had an argument before about Israel, now they did it again. Look at Jenk get embarrassed so hard, it's not funny.
If you are at the mercy of a terrorist organization.
At the mercy?
You mean the IDF as the terrorist organization?
No, I do not mean the IDF as a terrorist organization. The IDF is defending itself against this genocidal monsters, these genocidal monsters that are Hamas, and it's well documented and everybody understands that it's an incredibly difficult situation with an incredibly unique set of circumstances of how densely populated it is, how monstrous Hamas is by using their own people as human shields, by putting all of, we're still using that because it's a fact, Jenk.
Fact.
What you're still using is genocide and ethnic cleansing, neither of which make any sense or hold the muster of fact.
It's absurd.
It is not ethnic cleansing because if you've ever been to Israel, have you been to Israel?
Why would I go to a barbarous country that imprisons 5 million Palestinians and never lets them go and brutalizes them, murders them at every turn? Why would I go to that country? Are you insane? No one go to Israel. You should never go to Israel until they end up.
Yeah, they have a huge Arab minority and like 50% of their fucking like Congress is Arab.
Occupation, and then we love them and we go back.
It's an incredible nation, and it's the only democracy in the Middle East that allied in the Middle
democracy.
East. And you all the time use that as the example of why they should be held to a different standard than Hamas. You talk out of both sides of your mouth on this issue constantly. You say they're a democracy, so that's why they have to be held to a different standard. Then I call them a democracy, and you laugh mockingly at the only democracy that is our allies in that region. It's so ridiculous and egregious. And despite all of the evidence shown and all of the tactics that the IDF takes under the advisement of what it needs to do to try to attain its objectives militarily, it does a litany of things that no other nation does. It's an average killed to military combatants compared to a typical ratio of other wars that is much higher compared to American wars that's 10 to 1, 12 to 1. Yet those numbers do not bother you. You say
what
that
do you mean they don't bother me? I did a decade of shows against that.
Those numbers don't affect your opinion of what's going on now, I meant to say. And you then also just make up that they're clearly trying to get the Gazan people into Egypt and displace them when that is not true. There have been some insane statements from some elements in the Israeli government that are not the official position of the government. That is not what the statement of Netanyahu
said from the river to the sea.
He said from the river to the sea they need to have control of their security. What are you talking about?
That's exactly what the Palestinians say. When we say from the river to the sea, they say it's political. But when it's a Muslim,
exactly
genocide. You know they didn't actually do it. When it's Israel, when they're actually doing the genocide, no. From the river to the sea, as they're in the middle of the genocide, you think no big deal, no big deal.
That is such an ignorant statement. When the Palestinians say from the river to the sea, they literally are saying without Jews and Israelis living there and pushing them into the sea.
Because this monster is actually killing them, butchering them.
Because that's why you've condemned the statement.
You've got a theoretical statement on one side, and on the other side you're actually butchering.
So why did you condemn the statement? Because you know that's what it means. That's why you condemned it.
Then why don't you condemn Netanyahu, that monster who just said from the river to the sea?
Because he's not saying that they need to displace the Palestinians.
Here, Ben. You're the most biased man in America.
And I do condemn Netanyahu.
Jenk is so fucking disingenuous, dude.
Muslims can't say it, but the Israelis can say it all day long as they do it. They're murdering Palestinians as we speak.
They need to disavow a fundamentalist belief that wants to kill all Jews as a disease and not allow them to live. That might not bother you, but it does bother me as an Israeli Jew.
That's such a weak excuse. I'll tell you why.
My people,
yes, I'll tell you why.
Please.
Because you always hide, like as if Israel's the tiny little country.
It is.
And they're so defenseless.
Tiny little country.
They're so, oh my God, they can't do anything against the all-powerful Palestinians who they imprison and take away their water, power, electricity.
Again, the blockade around Gaza is because of Hamas.
Murdered them at all terms, etc. No. If someone was actually trying to kill the Jews, Ben, I would line up in the front line with you. Are you crazy?
They just did that on October 7th.
Exactly. So you go and
they just did it while I was there. They just killed a bunch of people.
Oh yeah, special forces.
You care about Palestinian lives, Ben?
Of course I do.
24,000 dead. 10,000 children.
Of course course
You
I
don't care about them.
You
don't care about them at all.
Cenk, you can shout all you like, but you are the one condemning them to murder. So why don't you care about their lives?
Condemning them to murder?
You're condemning them to a never-ending cycle. Palestinians.
Is being made to kill them.
Palestinians. You are condemning Palestinians to murder. Because every time I suggest that you put any pressure or the world puts any pressure on Hamas to stop, you say they're terrorists. You can't ever tell them to stop. So you can only tell Israel to stop, which, as you know, for a goddamn fact, means that this war will end, Hamas will regroup, they will kill more Israelis, and Israel will kill more Palestinians. And that's what you want. That's what you're advocating for.
Insane, Ben.
That's exactly what you're advocating for.
I want a two-state solution where you actually have peace.
So do I.
But not Netanyahu.
Yeah, so fucking Cenk's solution that he shared with Destiny is get fucking basically get people in the West Bank to fight Hamas, even though they all support Hamas, and then somehow that will solve the solution or solve the problem.
That's a horrible statement he makes, and that should not be the position.
Terrorist, right?
But you add, no, not terrorist.
Of course he's a terrorist. He just said from the river to the sea, and he's actually doing it.
He said
he's 20 times the terrorist.
There can't be there can't be.
And how can?
Okay, whatever. I can't watch this whole thing. Cenk's a fucking idiot.
A humanitarian process for people coming from places like Haiti and Cuba, Venezuela, where there's essentially a failed state. But our court system is so messed up that of all these 2.6 million people, only fewer than 300,000 actually got relief at the end of the process. And so we need to pass this immigration bill to get this problem solved.
Congratulations, class struggle, you're banned. Yeah, Republicans don't want any immigration bill passed. They say they do, but they don't. They just want to use the immigration bill as an excuse not to give Ukraine aid, and then when fucking Democrats are like, okay, well, we'll negotiate on an immigration bill, then they're just dragging their feet and not doing anything. And then they're just going to vote against the immigration bill anyway, because they want Russia to take over Ukraine. It's really fucked. All right, I'm going to grab the PS5 and we'll play some games. I'll be right back. All right. Let's do this.
That should not be the position.
Let's see. Dodo donated $2. Can you watch the rest tomorrow? Timestamped it. This is where you left off. Everyone wants to see it. Also, read the comments real quick. Sure, we can watch tomorrow. Jemp getting truth bombed worse than Gaza. Well, Israel will show the most smallest Hamas weapon, show it on news for days and days, yet they don't have one footage of Hamas using civilians as human like, how the fuck are you going to show that, dumbass? The guy is not balanced to your show. Your show represented news from a truth angle without the one-sided mouthpiece. Bring the show back. Oh my god, are you stupid? Palestinian Arabs have refused a two-state solution since ever. Please read more and read the terms. Oh my god. Jesus, these people are all just fucking stupid. Alright, well, we'll watch the rest tomorrow, Dodo. Thanks for the donation. Alrighty. Where is Last of Us? There we are.